so that way when I'm looking at the screen, it doesn't look like I'm looking somewhere else.
Hi, everyone. Hi, that was
Hi.
Kristen. Hi, everyone. It's Heidi from Costume Co. back for another live stream. It's Saturday night. It's 8 p.m. And I have the wonderful, lovely, delightful Kristen Jones here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kristen. She's in Detroit. She's just on the other side of the border. I'm in Toronto, Canada, but we're pretty close, and we probably are sharing similar weather.
Yep, it is. It's actually kind of warm, and I'm regretting it because I'm in my attic and I'm wearing all this knit stuff. I'm actually kind of hot.
Yeah, so Kristen is wearing full costume. And so anyway, some of you have probably seen Kristen before. She was on my live stream I think it was about 5 months ago, actually now. It's been a while. So Kristen, but for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, sorry. I'm just saying hi to someone that popped in here. Sheila, my good friend Sheila's in here from
that's awesome.
Red Wine. She just came in.
And Sheila was on the show. She was on the show like about 2 months ago. Hi, Sheila.
Yep, she's famous.
She is famous.
So, okay, anyone who hasn't seen the other stream or doesn't know who in the heck I am, my name's Kristen Jones. I'm a costumer, not a professional because I don't get paid. I spend all of my own money on it. But I'm rather prolific. I love to do costumes. And I have all sorts of different genres that I costume in. But what I'm wearing today is one from Outlander. I'm sure there's some Outlander fans out there. And this costume that I'm wearing is my first version of a costume from the upcoming season 4, which we get next month. There was a picture that was leaked a little while ago, kind of from the show, and the outfit that Claire was wearing there is what I've tried to replicate here. So that's why I'm got up in all this stuff tonight.
Yes, and so do you want to? Did you want to get into it? How you made that, or do you want to talk about that a little bit later? What do you want to do?
No, I can talk about it now.
Okay, sure. Do you want me to get the pictures ready for you then?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting up the picture that I sent you of her costume so they can see.
Sure, let me look at it here. Okay, so we're going to show you guys. So this is Christine, Kate, how do you say it? Katrina Bell.
Katrina Bell.
Yeah. So there she is. Here, let me just take that off of I'll put it on there. Okay, there she is. And so what did you sort of glean from this picture when you saw it, the first time you saw it?
First thing that I looked at when I saw this picture, which is odd for me, and I'll explain that in a minute, is the fichu, because that's the thing she's wearing around her neck here. I never wear these things. I don't like them generally because the ones that I see that are more maybe historically accurate are worn a little bit differently, and they sort of look dowdy to me, so I've always stayed away from them. But that one in particular, I loved how they put it under the bodice, and I loved that floral pattern that's on it. It caught my eye instantly. It's also on the cuffs of her bodice there.
Yeah, which is kind of different. I haven't seen anything like that on her before.
It's what made me want to do this costume, because I thought, well, here's one that features a fichu that I actually like. So maybe this might be a good one for me. And a good friend of mine, Rebecca, and I both were searching the internet trying to find that fabric. We didn't actually find the real fabric, but we found this, which was close.
Here, I'll go back to you then so people can see. Okay.
Yeah. So this, it's not an exact match, but it's close. And the second thing that I noticed is that her bodice in this costume is quite a bit different than the ones that she wore in previous seasons, where it doesn't have lacing in the front and a separate stomacher. Instead, it's all one piece and joins in the center, which is more in line with what we see in American colonial clothing, which is the time period and the setting for season 4. It's in America during the colonial period. So it's more in line with that. Another style that I've not done before, but it wasn't all that different from the other bodices I made. So I took an existing pattern and modified it to make it look like that. And that's where I came up with this facsimile of what she's wearing with a center closing bodice and not a stomacher. Instead, it's all attached and with the fichu underneath.
Yeah, and one of the things I mentioned to you, Kristen, in the group, which is the Highlander inspired costumes group, which I've put a link in the description below, that you moderate, and you are also, of course, obviously an active member. Is because I was asking you, so like for the original, like season 1, season 2, maybe even season 3, you were using this one pattern called, I think it was JP. Was it JP? What was the name of the pattern, Kristen?
I used JP Ryan for this one, yes.
Yeah. The other one was McCall's then?
McCall's M7735.
Yeah. So what was different about this one is the seams are different, right? And it's kind of more open in the neckline. So you see more of the fichu as opposed to the other one, which is a little bit more.
The M7735, the neckline is cut more like, kind of like that, where it goes straight down, covers a lot, and it works well for the earlier seasons of Outlander. It looks a lot like what she wore in those, and there's a separate attached peplum, which is, and all the seams and everything work for better for earlier seasons. But this particular look is, as I said, it's an American colonial 1770s is completely different look, and that's why I went back to the JP Ryan pattern. It's more historically accurate and has seam placement that's more correct, the shape of the peplum, the fact that it's not actually a peplum. All of these panels extend down all the way. It's more historically accurate, so that's why I switched to this pattern, along with the neckline being more open.
Yeah, and a lot of people wouldn't know this, but under that, you're wearing a foundation garment.
Oh, yes, I'm wearing every appropriate layer, including stays underneath this.
Yes, so stays are sort of so without the stays, you wouldn't get that sort of beautiful silhouette that you have.
No, not at all. In fact, when I was making this bodice, I would throw it on to test my shoulder fit just to see, but I wasn't worried at all about how the body looked, because I knew without my stays, it's not going to look right. This silhouette is supposed to make your upper body into basically a cone, so it flattens you here, and you need the stays to get that look.
Yeah, now here, I'm just going to pull this picture up for you guys to see. So this is after Kristen made the bodice, she put it on. I guess this is your sort of dummy, your dressmaker's dummy you use?
Dummy, yeah.
Yeah, and so you can kind of see. Now, what's the shape of the fichu? Is it a triangle?
It is. It's actually 2 triangles, and I stitched them together in the center back. So it makes one big triangle. It's basically shaped exactly like the shawl that I'm wearing that was made by Sandy Russo of Knitsy Blonde. I took this and I traced it onto the fabric in 2 pieces and stitched it together. I basically copied this shape, and then it's put on, and I tucked it into the lacing on my stays before I put the bodice on, pull it all down tight so it's nice and flat, then put the bodice on over top.
Now, for the closure, are you using hook tape, or what kind, or is it hooks and eyes? What did you use for that?
Hooks and eyes, and I used some big ones. I have a couple out here, maybe.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Can see what they look like. They're big.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, can you guys see that? I can see it pretty well.
So I have 9 of those stitched underneath here. I just find these easier to use than the little traditional ones. They're just easier. That's all. And since they don't show, it doesn't matter. But much easier.
I have a feeling we'll probably see some people use a zipper. I mean, it's not historically accurate, but I mean, and
I've used Velcro before, so I can't really think. Yeah, I have before.
Total. Now, did you have to put any boning in the bodice?
I didn't put any in the bodice. The only place where there's boning here is right here, because there's some pressure there pulling, and I wanted to make sure this didn't waffle or get crooked, so I put a couple of zip ties right there along the edge, but that's it. Otherwise, all of the shape and support comes from the stays underneath.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, like Kristen uses zip ties as her boning. And where do you get your zip ties from?
Usually at Harbor Freight, which is just, I don't know if you have Harbor Freight in Canada, but it's just an inexpensive tool store. But I've seen them at Home Depot, places like that. Home improvement centers have them, and you can they're about 1/4 inch wide, and they're about 25 inches long. They'll come in a package of 10 for maybe $2. They're really inexpensive, and they make great boning.
Now, before we move on, I'm just going to where am I here? I'm just going to say hi to some people in the chat. Kristen, are you seeing the comments that we're getting so far?
I am. In fact, I'm answering one right now.
Okay.
30-day reviews asked what stays are. It's the forerunner to a corset. It's not really like a corset, because a corset aims to form an hourglass shape with your body. Stays don't do that. They come from around the late 15th or early 16th century up to about the late 18th century, and it flattens your bust and gives your torso like a cone shape instead of an hourglass. So it's different, but it works like a corset. It's basically the same type of garment. It's just constructed a little differently. The very bottom, for example, has tabs which come out, so that way when you sit down, it can't bite into your rib cage. It's very comfortable to wear. I've worn these all day long with no discomfort.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say hi. So 30 Days is, he's another creator. I'm just going to do a shout out to him. That's, he has his own YouTube channel where he does reviews of different grooming products like mustache wax and so on. And Aaron LaFay is also here. He's our other monitor. So there are lovely, kindly monitors. And then Cindy is here. She says, yay, Kristen and Heidi. And Red Shoes, Red Wine, which is Sheila. She's here. Hi, Sheila. And then Pretty Dark is here. Says, hey all, sorry I'm late. You're not late at all, actually. We started a little bit early tonight. And I'm sorry for anybody who thought the stream was at 7. We switched it tonight because Kristen's working, and so we were just trying to accommodate things a little bit for her. So hopefully that's okay, guys. And,
Heidi, if you want, you could for 30 days question about what stays are, rather than disrobing, you could go ahead and punch up a picture of my stays so we can see what they look like.
Okay. And then I also have a few, so I had a few submissions for questions for you, Kristen, as well, which I sent to you, which we'll get to shortly. But if anybody has questions, this is the purpose of tonight's stream. I mean, we're going to talk about costumes, obviously. Hi, AU's here as well. Hi, AU. Hopefully I said hi to everybody. So if you guys have a question for Kristen, just at me or at Kristen, sorry, so we can see it, okay? Because I think last time we had a situation where people were putting costumes and I didn't get to see them. And Holiday Man is here as well. Hi, Holiday Man. Okay, so what we're going to do is, guys, I'm just going to go back to, I'm not a technical person, so we're just going to go back to me finding the picture of the stays. So just give me a moment here. Okay, so there's a bunch of them, Kristen. So does everyone see that? That's the back.
There you go. That's the back of them.
There's the front.
There you go.
Okay, so Kristen's going to explain this.
Yeah, so these are the stays that I'm actually wearing right now. And we're looking at the front of it. You can sort of see that instead of it being an hourglass like a Victorian one, it's flattening the bust and forcing your torso down into a cone, and then it sort of splays out from there and accents the size of your hips. And it's laced down. Mine are laced down the front. Some were laced down the back. Actually, down the back is probably more common, but since I don't have a ladies' maid to help me get into it, I opted for the front lacing, which they did also have. It's a spiral lacing instead of your traditional, like you would lace up shoes. It's a spiral, a little bit different way to lace, but easier for one person to do. And you can see it's got shoulder straps over the top, which Victorian corsets don't always have. Sometimes they do, sometimes not.
Yeah.
And that picture that you just had there is a side view.
Here,
and you can see that I'm wearing a bum pad underneath that. That helps hold up my skirts and make my rear end seem fuller, which is also something that was fashionable then. You can see the way that the zip ties or the boning follow a curve on the sides. They don't go straight down. They sweep forward. And that's all designed to force your torso down into that conical shape, and there's less chance of the bones bending if they're curved around your body like that. That's why it's designed that way.
Yeah, and you can see that you're also wearing a chemise. There's a chemise underneath it, which every woman would wear, some type of foundation garment like that.
That's your underwear, basically. You would sleep in that, live in that, and it's worn under your stays for a number of reasons. One is to stop your stays being directly on your skin, since you wear them all the time and you don't really wash the stays, but you do wash the chemise. So that's the idea. Also, the chemise is pulled down as you're lacing to pull everything down and stop it popping out. So functional garment as well as fashion.
It also kind of, I think, helps for friction. Like you're not going to get that, wear of the stays against your, directly on your skin. Kind of like, just giving you a little bit of a barrier there. Here's the back, if anybody wants to see what that looks like. So you can see all the seams. this
Mhm.
in the bone channels. And so what did you make the stays out of?
That is the outer layer is a hand spun or a homespun linen, very heavy linen, with a really nice texture to it that I really liked. And then it's got 3 layers of canvas inside, and then the lining is a finer linen. So there's 4 layers total.
Wow.
3, 4, 5 layers total. 5 layers total.
And did you is that a JP Ryan pattern as well?
It is. This is a JP Ryan pattern for half bone stays. There is a full boned version too, but I didn't really need all the extra bones to get the shape I wanted, so I went with the half bone. It's just less work, less boning channels to make.
And maybe what I'll do is if anybody's interested in checking out those patterns, maybe I'll grab the links from you later and I can put those in the description. So now where do you buy your patterns from usually?
If I'm going to buy a pattern, it's almost always online. I really don't. I know they have them in Joann's, but I don't think I've ever bought one there. The JP Ryan ones I buy online, of course, because they have a website, jpryan.com, and I'll go there and buy them. The McCall's one, I think once I saw that it was out, I bought it on eBay because it was there and it was easy. But you can just as easily find McCall's or Simplicity, obviously, in Joann's or someplace like that. They always carry them. Okay,
so I'm just going to go back to, are we back to me? Oh, there we are. Okay, let me just go off
30
that.
days that a bum was a disappointment.
I know. Well, what's the difference between that and a girl wearing a padded bra? You know, like
same thing. It's 18th century padded underwear, same thing.
Exactly. So now your mitts that you're wearing, your little wrist warmers, are they from Sandy as well?
No.
Where'd you get them?
I haven't gotten the correct ones yet. The ones she wears with this costume are more of a mauve color, and I don't have them yet. So Sandy Russo, if you eventually watch this, I'm going to need new ones. These,
and we put her link. We've put her link below. We've added Sandy. I know you sometimes get some things from the other Sandy, Knitsy Blonde.
Sometimes, yes. So, I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to admit that these arm warmers that I'm wearing are actually the tops of some woolen socks that I cut off. This was the first pair of arm warmers I ever had before I got in any legit ones from my friends. So, and they were the closest thing to the ones that she has in season 4, which are more ribbed like this, different than the other ones. And that's what I could find. So that's why I wore them. This shawl is from Sandy Russo.
Yeah.
And this
she's actually knitwear. I don't know if would she call herself a knitwear designer?
Her Etsy store is Knitsy Blonde.
Oh, that one is Sandy Russo. Okay, it's not the other Sandy.
Right, that's Sandy Russo. She made this. It's what she calls the Carolina shawl, and this is a replica of what Claire wears in season 4. It's a new one, and she was very gracious to make this for me. And I not only wear it with my costumes, but I wear this every day. I wore it the other day to work, and instead of wearing it like I just had it, it was sort of sideways on my body like this, and it made a cute cowl. Like I wore it like this. It's so wearable. I'm so thankful to have this from Sandy. She does fantastic work.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I want to say about Kristen is I call you like living Outlander. You know, so you'll pair it with like a pair of jeans, like really nice jeans and some boots. And then you'll wear the shawl sort of like you say, you have it sort of sideways and you'll put a little brooch with it. Like what was that brooch you were wearing? I saw that picture of you.
The one I wore the other day is the clan badge of Jones of Wales, since I'm a Jones.
Okay.
That was a Jones family crest that I wore that says Sine Numine Nihilum, which means without God, nothing.
Okay. And it's sort of, where did you order that from? Did you get it from Scotland? Or did you get it in your travels?
That at our Ren Fair. There's a booth at our Ren Fair called Got Kilt. They sell kilts and things. And they had clan badges, and I found it there. I was happy to find it. But otherwise, you could easily order them online or buy them right from a store in Wales or Scotland. They're everywhere.
I know I really want to get one because I haven't worn it on my stream yet. I'm going to, but I have an Outlander shawl, which I think is called Tea and Whiskey, is the tartan that I got. Yeah, and that I got from the lovely, it was 2 Silver Cats, Jennifer Begley.
2 Silver Cats, yeah.
And the tartan is woven in Scotland. It's the same designer that did all of the Outlander tartans. So,
yes.
And I've met all of you guys together. It's been so fun. Like I met, Jennifer, and I met Gordon, then I met you, and then I met Oh, and I had, I was going to tell you, I didn't know if you knew this. I had, who else did I have? So I had Sheila on, and then I had Natasha on, like maybe a month ago.
That's right. I missed Natasha being on. Yes.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And she was just going on her way to Dragon Con. I think it was Dragon Con. And she was making an outfit from, oh, it was a David Bowie. Did you see that she made this beautiful for her husband?
No, I
David
missed
Bowie. Guys, what was the name of that movie that David Bowie's
Labyrinth?
Labyrinth, yes. Everyone here knows I have a terrible memory. Okay, so do we have any questions? What I can maybe do, before we do that, I actually, we have some of your work in progress pictures. Do you want to show those?
Sure.
The ones with your
that's
pattern?
When I was working on this bodice.
Okay, here, guys, I'm gonna call those up. So let me go back here. My God, doing this is crazy. Kristen's very patient with me though. Okay, here we go. So I've got, I don't know if they're in order, Kristen. Okay, so there's one.
I was working on some sleeves there. Yes, I was working on these sleeves.
Yeah, so guys, you can see, so there's the sleeve with the wool, and you were telling me that you made the bodice out of a blanket. Did you? We were just chatting about that a bit ahead of time. Do you want to explain to everybody how that worked?
I work in an army surplus store, and one of the things that we carry there are wool military blankets. And anytime I'm doing something Outlander that is a solid color and not a tartan, if it isn't obviously linen, if it looks woolen or something like that, I'll use wool blankets because they're so inexpensive. You can get about 2 yards of really high quality wool for about $25. So I use wool blankets a lot. This entire bodice was made from one brown wool blanket from my store. So there you go. It's 85% wool for $25.
Yeah. And then, so what's fun about this picture though, is you can see the lining fabric, which is made out of the same fabric that you use to make your fish shoe.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you've got the cuffs. That was a feature I hadn't seen on Claire before, like sort of a contrasting cuff like that.
Yeah. The turnout cuff is more of a, that's like again, that's a colonial thing. It's a 1770s thing. Her earlier ones, they didn't feature that, but this did. And that meant that I had to learn how to line bodices, which up until now I have always avoided because I don't like dealing with linings. They hate me. So I had to learn to do it on this one, which is why I was taking my time. And in this particular case, the picture here, I was working on the sleeves and working out the lining and the outer shell and figuring out how to put them together. It turned out, thank God.
And then this is, here. So here is what the sleeves look like after you've kind of pieced them together.
Yep. They're fastened at the bottom and the cuffs.
Yeah.
The cuffs are actually separate. Instead of it looks like you just rolled it up.
Yeah.
But you don't actually do it that way. The cuffs are a separate piece and they're attached underneath here. And then you flip it up. I'm not really sure why, but that's how they do it. Now this picture is actually, you've got your pattern pieces that you're cutting out. Yep, you can see it on the blanket there, and see how it's got a stripe. There's a stripe, and it's kind of a pain because I have to work around that stripe. I can't use it, obviously, so it limits that. Like some of the blankets have a stripe, some don't, and the brown one does. I actually got a little tiny bit of one of those stripes in one of my pattern pieces, but fortunately it was inside the seam allowance, so it didn't show. You know, it'd be nice. So if you use this blanket to make a skirt, you could use that as a border on your skirt. Like if you weren't doing like an Outlander thing, if you were just doing sort of a wool skirt. And actually, so the border goes all the way around the blanket. Yes, it does. It's a box shape around the border. So instead of having the full blanket, I have to kind of come in just a little bit to use it. Now, it's more than big enough to do a bodice, though. This isn't a paper pattern, though. It looks like you're using muslin. Yeah, I think at that point I did. I transferred, what I did was I took the paper patterns that I got and I transferred that to a muslin, made a muslin, and then made some changes because I needed to change the front opening for one. I had to add a seam here that I don't know if you can see this, but there's a seam right across here, which is really bizarre. I don't know why Claire's bodice has a seam there. It's strange, but I had to add it. So I basically made my muslin and then slashed it, added this seam, and then put it back together. I had to change a couple other little things. So I did that all on the muslin, which normally I don't do. I was being a good girl this time and doing it the smart way and making a muslin first. So that's what's pinned on there. After I'd made my changes, I took it back apart and pinned it onto the blanket and went ahead and cut it out.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, like we oftentimes in costuming, you do a muslin mock-up, and muslin is just sort of like an inexpensive, like light cotton fabric. It's fairly inexpensive. So once you do your paper, you've got your paper pattern, you can make it into a muslin mock-up. And then as Kristen says, you do any changes, and then you can just take the muslin mock-up, tear it apart, and then you lay that on your final fabric. Like someone actually Pretty Dark was saying, lovely work. We're taking the extra time to fuss with the lining. That's absolutely true. So it's kind of like, measure twice, and cut once kind of thing. It's sort of the same idea, I think, in costume.
Oh, you mean measure once, cut twice? That's what I do.
Measure once, cut twice. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Now here, actually, and then you're cutting out are you calling this a calico? What are you calling this fabric? This tissue fabric here, lining fabric.
It was this fabric that I found came from the Williamsburg collection. So it is a reproduction of an American colonial print that I found and bought. I can't remember the exact name of it now, but it's just a cotton print. Excuse me. Yeah. And when I was laying my pattern pieces on there to do the lining, since it's a lining, I didn't worry about orientation so much because it's not really going to show except around the edges. So I just sort of threw it on there, and I had to be as conservative as possible because I needed to leave some extra to make the fichu, which is quite large.
Yeah, and it's not very wide, it looks like. This is the thing I find with a lot of times, these little... Oh, now, you were talking about maybe distressing it later. Are you thinking about doing that, like teeing it or something?
Yeah, because it's a bit bright and a bit warm, the look that I want. So, though I know a lot of people use tea, personally, I'm not a big fan of using tea all the time. It depends on the effect that you're going for, but I've had better luck personally using RIT dye. I use RIT liquid taupe, and I water it way down. Like we're talking about maybe a few capfuls of the dye and a gallon or two of water. I water it down a lot and dip in that so that it makes it dingy. But the problem that I find with tea is sometimes it can be a bit warm, maybe a bit yellow.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to look yellow. I want it to look more dingy. I've just had better luck with RIT dye, so that's what I use.
Yeah, and some people use coffee. Some people use tea. Yeah, so there's different things. I always find breakdown is one of my favorite things. Now, do you ever break down the hems of your skirts?
Do I break down the hems? I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, sorry. Do you like rough them up a little bit, like to make that look like they've been dragging in the dirt and all that kind of thing? Or do you just leave them clean?
The thing is, that sort of tends to happen naturally because, I mean, not only do I wear them out at Ren Fair where they get a workout, but I wear them to work all through the fall and winter also. I'll wear my tartan skirts a lot because they're super cute. And so they'll get a little bit of natural wear on their own. Some of the solid ones that I made, I didn't even hem them. I just cut it off and let it kind of fray a bit because it looks nice.
Yeah, it does.
Excuse me.
Okay. Acrylic paint.
Yep, acrylic paint does work sometimes. I have done that. It worked good to water down acrylic paint. Sometimes I've done that and put it in a spray bottle and I'll mist it on. Sometimes I've used an airbrush too. It just depends.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. Do you want to? We can tackle those right now. That I put. Okay, guys. So what happened was I put out just a query out on YouTube, just asking if anybody had any questions for Kristen. So this is what we have. First of all, we have a girl named Emma Peel, which is funny because I think that's the name of a character from the Avengers.
From the Avengers. Yeah, from the not the Superheroes Avengers, the other Avengers.
The other Avengers, like with Patrick McNee. So which actually was played by Diana Rigg originally. You know who's on Game of Thrones? Okay. So she asks, are fabrics specially made for you when creating costumes, or do you shop for them? It's a two-part question. And do you have to make numerous copies of each costume for wear and tear purposes?
Okay.
So what's your answer to that?
First part, I wish I was fancy enough to have fabrics custom made for me. That would be awesome, but I am nowhere near that fancy. So if it's going to be a tartan, I really only have to go to my friend Jennifer Begley because she's already made them all. I can get it from her. Or if it's if it happens to be a tartan that is not one that they make, but it's a real existing one, I will ask her or Gordon Kirkbright. They'll find out what it is for me, because that's their business, is tartans. They make them. So that's who I'll go to for that. If it's plain stuff, I'll shop for it. If it's something easy like a linen or a wool, I'll use a blanket, or I'll go to Joann's and look. But if it's something different, like I needed a teal wool for my my season 2 costume that I did, I had to buy that online. I went to Mood Fabric and found a nice Melton wool that was in the color I wanted. It's a little bit daunting buying fabric for me online because I like to touch it and I like to see the actual color, and you can't do that. I should order swatches, but I'm too lazy. So
yeah. And actually, that's interesting that you should point that out, because I did have somebody looking for, they were doing a cosplay, and I said to them, you know, if you can, try and get swatches. A lot of times they'll sell them for $2 or something a piece. So if you do have the time, and it's going to be a big investment, especially some of the fabrics, like if you're going to spending a lot of money, then it's good. I think that's a good suggestion. But if it's something like, you know, already kind of what you're going to be getting. Now, there are places like Spoonflower. Have you ever used them before?
No, my friend Jessie Bennett has. She made the fabulous, I call it the, oh, I came up with such a beautiful name for it now, it escapes me, but it's a margarine colored gown from season 3 that she reproduced. It looks fantastic. And it had,
I saw that. It was amazing. So she did.
Yeah, the fabric was, that was hand painted on the show. It was a painted pattern, but she took that pattern, reproduced it, and sent it to Spoonflower and had them printed on the fabric. Looks great.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, I mean, I haven't actually looked into them too much, but if, like, a lot of people are really good with graphics, and they'll reproduce the pattern design using a graphic design program, and then they'll submit it to, I don't know what the file has to be, if it's a JPEG or what it must be, have to be a specific file, I think. Hey, Kristen? And then they submit it to Spoonflower, and then you can order the fabric of that design. And then does it become available for other cosplayers once it's up?
I'm not sure on that. I'd have to ask someone who's used it before. I never have.
Like if you're able to make it public so that if other people want to get that same pattern.
Probably. I would say probably.
Yeah. So anyways, it's pretty cool. I mean, and then of course there's like 3D printing is a big thing now too. So a lot of people are doing that. I've noticed a lot of people, not necessarily fabrics, but just like jewelry and things like that. People are ordering 3D printed versions of something that someone's done. I've got
the second part of that question.
The second part. So she's just asking about the multiple copies.
Yeah, and I do make multiple copies sometimes, but not for wear and tear purposes, mostly because I am never, ever happy with something I've made until I've made it 3 times anyway. For some reason, it's just the way with me. I'll make something and I'll find something to nitpick, and I'll end up making it again. And then by the time I've made the 3rd one, then I'm happy with it. So yes, I do multiples sometimes, but only because that's the way I work. That's how, I'm not so good at planning stuff out on paper, and I'm not so good really even sometimes with visualizing. I need to do it. I have got an idea in my head. I need to go and make it. And then when I do, I'll work out all the bugs on the first one, make a second one to perfect it. Then the 3rd one is basically a copy of the second one.
Yeah, and if any of you guys don't know, Kristen has a closet full of costumes. She's actually got a costume closet. So she's got, and so neat and tidy. You've got all your bodices, you've got all your skirts, you've got all your chemises. Oh, she's going to show us. Oh, here, let me go to here.
Up here, this is some of my extra costumes. I don't have.
I see your Sandra there.
What she said was true. I do have an Outlander costume closet that has all of this stuff in it. But then my extra costumes are here. This is a Melisandre that I made. There's some stuff here from Battlestar Galactica, which is a show I love. I have a couple of uniforms from that. And
Gordon Kirkbright did the fabric for that as well. Did you know that, Kristen?
Yes, he did.
You did know. Of course you did.
Yes, it's true. And then I have some, there's all sorts of things. Here's a some people may recognize this from Alien. This is I want to do an analysis of Alien. I love the costumes on Alien. Now this particular one, this is a real G4 flight suit. It's a pilot's flight suit, which is what Sigourney Weaver wore. And they're very rare, like to find one like that is, and they're expensive. They're probably $300 or $400 to have a real one.
Oh my God.
This was maybe 10 years ago. someone brought one into my surplus store, that one, they brought it in, and I thought instantly, that's Sigourney Weaver's jumpsuit. So I snatched it. And that's really the only reason I have that costume, is because I was lucky enough to come across that real jumpsuit and not have to make it myself.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Someone said here. Sorry, guys. It's hard for me to keep track here. Oh, they're talking about Dawn Cherry. Oh, yeah. Red Shoes. She says, I see BSG. She spotted it right away. That's Sheila.
Yep. Sheila does BSG costuming too. And one of these years, her and I we're going to attend an event together. It'll be the best day of my life, and we'll do BSG stuff together.
Yeah, and Sheila, we had her on, so she does a lot of Outlander as well. And what I'll do is I'll add her. Sheila, I'm going to add your link as well. Red Shoes. She has a blog. It's really amazing. She travels. She talks about traveling on cruises, and we had a blast with her on. It was so much fun. She'd never done anything like this before, so it was just like, but we ended up having such a good time. So we'll have to have her back on again too, Kristen. We'll have you, maybe we'll have you both on. It'll be so fun.
We can be fancy together.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then the next question I had, this is more, this is kind of this is a Game of Thrones a question, but I mean, it can be kind of a general costume in a sense too. He says, his name is Freddie Hudson. He says, what would be the hardest to make Game of Thrones costume? So I think he means like what Game of Thrones costume would be the hardest to make. And I had suggested it could be armor, although you said not necessarily armor. Have you had a thought about what would be the hardest to make?
Honestly, a lot of, even Cersei's gowns are very elaborate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All of the gowns are. Even the guys' clothing, their armor, and even not even their armor, but just the layers of clothing is all very intricate. There's tons of work that goes into those things. And since I haven't studied a lot of it, I'm not sure that I could say which would be the hardest. But one thing I mentioned to you when we were talking about it is that regarding armor, I've had good success making armor out of leather and then finishing it to look like steel. And that's probably how I would go about it if I was going to do something with armor. Like, for example, my husband wants a season 7 Jon Snow with the gorget and the whole thing. I'll probably make it out of leather.
Let me find that picture of you guys. I'm going to find that picture of you guys, though, dressed up in her husband's Jon Snow. Hold on a second, guys. Here we go.
Wearing my wig.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's so funny. I asked you, I'm like, okay, hold on. Sorry. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Can you guys see that?
There it is.
Yeah. So this is you. So we saw your Melisandre costume on the hanger on the rack, and then that's your husband. Here, let me just click. Yep. So this one, what did you told me about this last time. So how did you make that costume of his?
I sort of cheated. It's an amalgam of having made him that cape, and the doublet that he's wearing is from his Kylo Ren costume.
Yeah, so that's what it was.
Yeah, and it just worked. So we threw it on. We just kind of wanted to get a general Jon Snow look to go with my Melisandre to go out to the Ren Fair, and I had made that cloak for him, and thought, well, let's just throw on something medieval looking to see how it looks. And we had his Kylo Ren doublet. We put that on and it seemed to work. So for now, that's what we have. But he wants something more screen accurate that's going to involve some armor. And I'm thinking I'll probably make that out of leather.
Yeah. So I've got, okay. So Kristen did, here's the armor you made here. What costume was this for again?
That's for my Lady Predator.
Oh yeah, so the predators are here. So this is all made out of leather then. So you want to tell us a little bit about this? We're just showing you guys, this is an example of how you could make metal looking armor, but making it out of leather. Sorry, Kristen, I'll let you talk about it. I'm having problems here.
I had made this armor originally out of a PVC plastic, probably 10 years ago. And it wore okay, but it was sort of uncomfortable to wear. So I decided I wanted to reproduce it in leather since I'm a leather worker. So I made these pieces from leather, dyed them black, and then I used a metallic paste that gets rubbed onto the leather. The more you rub it in, the shinier it gets. It's kind of like Rub and Buff. Some of you have probably heard of Rub and Buff before. And it's like that, only a bit different. It's made for leather and other things like that. I rubbed that all in and it got really, really shiny. Then I used an airbrush over top of it to put the grit and grime and make it look corroded so that I could have this armor for my Predator and have it look aged and not look nice and shiny.
Yeah, and here, okay, so here actually is the final costume on you. You're like the female Predator, right?
Now that picture that you have there, those pictures, that one is the plastic armor. I sent some that look really dramatic with dark lighting and some smoke in the background. That's the leather armor.
I just have to say something. I accidentally, Bubba Husky, I accidentally deleted your comment. I'm really sorry. I was just going through the... So hopefully, maybe Erin, you can undelete it for me. I'm sorry, guys. I can't do two things at once. And then here, so is this one still the plastic, or is this the leather one?
Yeah, that is the plastic. It's hard to really tell the difference. They do look very much alike, but that one is the plastic.
Yeah.
That's my husband and I doing our famous. He actually wants to make this picture into a tattoo.
Oh.
It's our thing. Our heads sort of form a perfect heart, the shape of them.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah.
Now, I asked you a little while ago, have you seen the new Predator movie? There's a new one out.
I did.
And I don't think it got the best reviews.
I wasn't overall impressed with it. There was some of it that I did like. I was disappointed with a lot of it as well. But oh well. I mean, that's what happens. You know, I liked some of the other ones better. They took a direction with it that I wasn't really pleased with necessarily, but there were also other things in it that were really good. Two different kinds of Predators, not to be so spoilery, but two different looking ones. And one is more classic. I really liked the scenes with that one. But other than that, I wasn't super impressed with it. No.
Oh, that's too bad. I don't know if anybody in the chat has seen it. Oh, Aaron says he can't undo it. Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, Bubba. I don't know if I've kicked him out then. This is terrible.
Oh, no.
No, I just touched something and then it just did that. And oh, here he is. Am I hiding? He says, no, you're here, Bubba. Sorry, I accidentally hid you. You can unhide Bubba as mods. Oh, okay. Okay, I see. But I don't know how to do it. So, Bubba, if you want to say what you were saying earlier, just write it again. Okay, I really apologize. So the next question is, are you okay for another question, Kristen?
Of course.
Okay, it comes from Zachary Weber. They ask, what advice, this is a great question, I think. What advice would you give to someone who has never sewn anything in their life, but is interested in picking the hobby up? I love that question.
This is going to sound like a familiar answer, but it is the one I believe in. Do it. Don't let the fact that you don't know what you're doing stop you from trying, because I didn't know how to do any of this until I tried and failed. And eventually you get to the place where your failures are not outweighed by your successes. It'll be the other way around. But you can't wait until you know what you're doing, because you never will if you do. You just have to try it. Find something you really like. Find a costume that really inspires you or that you really want to have, because then you'll have that desire driving you forward, and then give it a try. The worst that can happen is you'll fail, but then try it again and just keep going until you get there. It's what I did. I'm completely self-taught. I've never taken any sewing classes, and there's lots of things I could still learn, but I'm at the point now in my life where I feel confident when I get an idea in my head, I can go for it and I can make it work. But that just comes from years and years of trusting myself and not letting my failures discourage me.
Absolutely. I think it's always one of those things. Like, I think there's a really great book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, anybody. But it talks about how when we're younger, we're more likely to want to be creative and try different things and take some risks. But as we get older, we build up these blocks and we're worried people are going to be critical of us. And I mean, this is the thing too. You don't have to show anybody. Like if you want to try something, go ahead and do it. You don't have to show anybody. You can just do it. One of the things that when I was in home ec, like I don't know if they do this anymore in school, is we would do a craft. Like we wouldn't necessarily do a piece of clothing. So you could make a craft item. So say you could make a throw pillow, or you could make, I don't know, something really simple like an apron. I think it would be a good simple project to do. You can get patterns for those even, and then just get some like, you know, inexpensive fabric like at Joann's, or in Canada we have Fabricland, so pick up something not too expensive. They oftentimes have like little samples of fabrics, or even like hand sewing. You could just do a little hand sewing thing. So I mean, that's always, it's just like you say, it's just get started, and it's so much fun. Like once you start, you're like, oh my God, why did I wait for this? Why didn't I do it all along?
When I first started, I didn't have a sewing machine. I could only hand sew.
Yeah.
And that really limited what I could make, because it takes so long compared to machine sewing. So I didn't do a whole lot then. A lot of times it was modifying things that already existed. But then once I got my first machine, then I felt like I was liberated, because I could make whatever I wanted to. I still failed a lot, but you know, it's one of those things. The desire to have what I wanted to have was stronger than my urge to give up. So I kept trying, and eventually I would make something that worked out, that fit me good. Okay, that's a good one. Now I can build on that. And that's how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, Aaron's leaving. Oh, Aaron, I hope you're feeling okay. He's saying he has to go lie down. Hope you're okay, Aaron.
I know what else is good for scrap fabric, Sheila. Drapes work really well for that.
Yeah. So Sheila's suggesting you use sheets, old sheets. Like, you know, we have, I don't know what you guys have secondhand stores. We have a place called Value Village, and you can go there and you can get old sheets. You can get like remnants of fabrics, and that's a really great way. Drapes, like you were saying, old drapes.
Yep, Sheila knows all about that.
Sheila likes to take her duvets and cut them off. I guess her dogs had like chewed a hole in one of her duvets or something, so she took the duvet and then she ended up making it into an 18th century costume.
Drapery murderer. She's a drapery murderer.
She is a drapery murderer. Sorry, now I've screwed up I'm having so many problems technically wise, guys, tonight. Okay, so did you want to talk about, until we get some new questions, did you want to talk about some of your other costumes? What would you like to sort of chat about? Because I've got some pictures that we can show.
I don't have them up here to show, but another costume that I've put a lot of love into, even though it's only been 3 years since we got this costume, is Rey from the new Star Wars movies. The very first costume we ever see her in on screen is what we call her full scavenger, where she's wearing these goggles and a head wrap.
I've got those pictures. I don't know if they're the right ones. Here, I'll show you what I have. Okay.
Okay.
You can tell me if it's if this is what you're talking about. Is it that one?
It is. Yeah. That's it.
I can go. There's the full one there. Okay.
There it is. You got it.
So, and before you go on with this one, I'm just going to tell everyone that Sheila also moderates. I don't know, you find time to do all this. She moderates a Rey Facebook page. It's dedicated exclusively to Rey, to cosplayers. So I've put a link in the description for that. And and actually, Sheila, we should talk about some of your products you make, but we can do that after if you want. So what do you want to tell us about this costume?
Well, this is the first time I saw Rey on screen, and actually I saw this costume before the movie even came out. They had some movies costumes on display at Star Wars Celebration, and for some reason that costume just drew my attention instantly. I didn't know anything about the character, but I knew I loved that outfit. There was something about the anonymity of it that just drew me in. And I've made 4 versions of this costume now. Every piece that I'm wearing there, with the exception of the boots, which are a real world item that I bought. Yeah. I've changed every other item in that costume at least 3 times since I began, because I'm upgrading it and trying to make it better.
Where did you do that? Where did you do the photo shoot for this? This is amazing.
That is at Sleeping Bear Dunes in the north of Michigan.
That's amazing. Who did the photography for that?
My hubby did it.
Oh, your husband did. Now, who does all your photos for you, by the way?
Depends. I mean, sometimes I can get him to do it, but a lot of times it'll be me, or if I'm at a convention my friend Anna Rossman runs a company called Dark Star Photography. There's also that picture you're showing right there with my glove.
Yeah.
And the close up of the little doll that was taken by my friend Sean M. Scott Photography. A couple of friends of mine who are in my local area and attend most of the conventions, and they take pictures of the cosplayers.
Yeah, and so this is a little rebel. What do you call it? A rebel soldier.
It is in The Force Awakens. We see a little scene where Rey, living in a scuttled AT-AT walker, has a little house built there, and she has this little doll. And her backstory is that she made that doll when she was younger, dreaming of being a pilot. She had found a helmet from an X-wing pilot named Captain Dosimet Rey, and dreamed of being a pilot herself. So she made this little doll, and it was there on a shelf in her little makeshift home. So I made that doll and would carry it with me at conventions. The day that this picture was taken, I had it in my belt, and I met a little 3-year-old girl who was dressed as Rey, and I ended up giving it to her because I thought that was the perfect thing for her to have.
So actually, it's funny. I'm going to just pop over to here for a second, but look at this. I got another close up of you. This is, so we got Rey, and here we have Outlander. Well, we'll come back to the belt. So, cause you make these now. So now you made the belts here. You made, you made everything.
Yes. All of it. I made the only thing that I didn't make in that Rey costume is I bought the gloves and I bought the boots. And I bought a 3D printed kit to assemble to make that staff, but everything else I made with my own 2 hands. Yeah.
Pretty Dark says she really loves the fabrics. They are gorgeous. All your different fabrics here. Here, let me go back to this one. This is you, close up of you with the goggles. Those are amazing.
That pair that I'm wearing on my head I still wear those now. They're my personal pair. That was probably the maybe 75th pair of goggles that I made. I now have made 89 pairs of those goggles.
And you've sold them to cosplayers?
Yeah, I as you mentioned, I run I'm one of the admins of the Rey Cosplay Community Facebook group, and I have over 1,500 sisters in that group. And
that's amazing.
Several of them have bought
spare time between work and cosplaying, and you're running too.
Yeah.
And Red Shoes, she says we should have Anna on. She's so good. And who's Anna?
Anna would be great to have on. You'll have to convince her to do it sometime.
Okay. You know what? I am always hitting people up. Like I kind of do it on the back end. I'm like, hey, do you want to be? I actually, I asked Jennifer if she wanted to come on, but she wouldn't. She says, no, that's not my scene. Because she has an amazing business where she, makes items out of tartans. She repurposes tartan. I love this picture of you here.
See, that was taken covertly this was at a convention called C2E2 in Chicago. And we were all lined up. There was probably 200 of us Legion members lined up for a group photo. And my friend Sean Scott was just lurking around snapping pictures. And he caught this picture of me standing next to my husband. He's wearing the Kylo Ren. And I'm Rey. And
who's on the other side of you there? Who's that?
On the other side is someone dressed as Darth Revan. I don't know that I knew them, but he happened to capture my husband and I wearing costumes of characters who are all but enemies in the movie, but yet we're a husband and wife team doing it. And there was a picture that was taken of us shortly after this where I had my goggles down and he sort of dipped me and was kissing me. It was kind of neat.
Well, and it's kind of neat because your husband's a little bit out of focus, and so the sort of concentrates, and of course he's dark, so you really pop out there in that photo.
Focus on me.
Focus on me. As exactly. Lady Laura Dane, she says, Kristen, you are very, very talented. That's so sweet, eh?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then Bubba says, Dark Star, the most dangerous photography in Dorn. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Dark Star was something like that was mentioned in Dorn. I'm not sure where Anna got the name for Dark Star photography. I think she took it from something, but what it came from, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard of Dark Star photography, but I didn't. It must come from something, right? It's probably. I believe it's Star Wars related. I can't swear to it, but I think it is. Yeah. Now, did you want to talk a bit about, okay, Kristen does, you make Arisaid, sorry, you make belts, you make pouches like Sporrans. Did you want to talk a bit about that and what you do? You know, your little side business that you have on top of your work, and you're running your two groups and your cosplay in your spare time?
Like everything else, even like with the sewing that we were talking about before, eventually it came up where I needed to have some leather work in my costuming, and where it came up was my Ray costume. Ironically, I needed to work with leather to make a belt, to make a wrist bracer, to make this backpack, elaborate backpack that she wears. So it was time to figure out how to do leather working. And so I dove into it to make that. There's a picture you're putting up of a belt sporran.
Yeah, let me, okay. Can everyone see that? Can you see that, Kristen? The belt sporran?
Yep.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about this one first, or?
That belt sporran I made, it's a replica of a belt sporran that Sam Hewen, who plays Jamie Fraser on Outlander, wore in season 2 and season 3. I replicated it. And I sent it as a gift to Sam Hewen. I have a friend in Scotland who visits set often and knows the principal actors, and she delivered that for me as a Christmas present to Sam. I sent him that with a I found a halfpenny piece that was dated the year of Jamie Fraser's birth, and put that in there with a little note and just a bit of appreciation for all of his hard work. I wanted to send him something that I made with my own 2 hands, since I probably will never be able to meet him. I wanted to know that something I made, he had in his hands. It was the next best thing to meeting him, in my opinion.
Oh, that's amazing. Let me see here if I have any picture. Let me just go back to you. I'm going to see if I have any pictures of your belts. Oh, here. So we have the Sassenach belts here. Is it showing?
Not yet.
Oh, why is it? Oh, I know what I did. There it is. Can you see it now?
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so that's one of your belts.
That's it's an Arisaid belt, or it's a belt that we see Claire wear a lot. In season 2, season 3, we'll see it probably again in season 4. It's a long leather belt that she ties in a knight's knot afterward and uses it to either hold a coat closed or hold an Arisaid on her or something like that. I made one of those for myself for that costume, and I developed the idea myself of hand inscribing slogans on the side. I use a leather working tool to do that calligraphy, and then use some antiquing methods to really darken the letters. And that can be custom done if someone wants an Arisaid belt made and they want something custom put on the outside of it. I can inscribe whatever they want.
Yeah, let me find a full picture of you wearing an Arisaid here, so everyone can sort of see what it looks like. Well, here you are here. There you are wearing one. So, and what you want to tell everyone what an Arisaid is essentially?
And an Arisaid is really just a big piece of tartan fabric. It's about 4 yards long. It's just a big rectangle. Generally, it's about 48 to 58 inches wide and about 4 yards long. You fold it in half and you wrap it around yourself. Back in those days, tartan was something that not only was very important to the Scottish because of the look, but also it was very practical. And they almost never would cut that stuff up because it could always be used for something else. There's 4 or 5 yards of fabric there. Could have been a skirt at some point, but that skirt, when they made it, they would have never cut the tartan. They would have just pleated it, stitched it together, but then it could be taken apart later on and made into another garment. An Arisaid was basically like a coat or a jacket, like an overcoat to keep someone warm, generally worn by women. They would wrap it around their upper body to keep them warm.
Yeah, and here you are just wearing the belt without the Arisaid, just sort of
which is a cute look. I've only seen Claire do that once, but Jamie's sister Jenny did it.
Yes, and then she has pouches on it or something.
She wore that, and she had pistols in it, and I just thought it looked really cute to wear the belt with the bodice like that. So I started doing it myself.
Yeah, and the other thing we have to tell everyone is, oh, here's a really good one of you with the Arisaid here.
The interesting thing about that fabric there, that fabric is called Weathered Fraser. That's a creation of Two Silver Cats. It's actual real world Fraser tartan, but they wove it with the colors that were used for the Outlander tartan on the show. So it's kind of in two worlds because it's real Fraser, but it's also Outlander colors. It's a unique creation, and I just love it. I think it's the most fantastic tartan I've ever seen.
Yeah, Sheila says she has one of your belts and she loves it. And I'm ordering a belt. I have to get you my waist measurement because you said you have to sort of allow for it to go over the Arisaid. But what I'm going to do is I don't have an Arisaid, but I have that lovely shawl that I got from Jennifer Begley, which is it's sort of an oversized shawl, and you can belt it and wear it with jeans if you want. You could wear it over a skirt too if you wanted to. Really, I mean, it's a super practical. Even if you're just sitting on the couch watching a show and you want to be you're cold, you could just sort of throw it on. It's beautiful.
I have a friend named Sarah that's in my group, and she has a wrap from Jennifer and belts it just like you're talking about, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't know if I told you this, that I got a blanket from Jennifer for my sister's birthday. My sister just had her 60th birthday. So I ordered one of the reversible blankets. So on one side, they're so gorgeous, you guys. Oh my gosh. On one side, it's weathered Fraser. And then on the other side, it's weathered Mackenzie. And it's woven in Scotland. At where Gordon Kirkbride gets all of his tartans woven, but they sell them out of Canada. So I ordered one from Jennifer, and you know that I got it like the next day.
Wow. Well, yeah, because you're neighbors, right?
It didn't have to go through customs or anything. So, and then I gave it to my sister, and she sent me this message. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Heidi, it is so beautiful. It's like an heirloom." And this is what's great about the shawls and even the Arisaids. It's like an heirloom item. You know, you can pass it down. So it's really, really practical. And the other thing that Gordon does, I haven't mentioned, is the way that they weave the tartan is slightly different than what a modern polished tartan would be. Like they do, I think they call it a hop. What do they call it? A hop stitch. It's like a slightly more loose weave than what we would see a modern tartan be made of. So it has that old fashioned sort of more 18th century, and they don't finish it. That's the other thing, right, Kristen?
Well, they do. Gordon does fully finish them. In fact, it's funny. The first time that I got tartan from them, the first thing I did was throw it into the washer and the dryer, and he said, "You did what?"
Yeah, but it came out beautifully, though, right?
Yes, because it was very finished and it looked very fine, which is how they want the fabric to look. But on the show, and this was a bit of intel that Gordon himself gave me, that on the show when they were using the tartans, they more than likely got those woven in what's called loom state, which is basically it's made but not finished. That's what they went with on the show because it had a rougher look.
Oh, okay. That's what I guess I was thinking about. So the ones that you buy from him are finished, but the ones for the show weren't finished. They were loom state.
Yes. Well, no, the ones I bought were finished, but I had to try to get them to look more loom state like they used on the show. And the way I accomplished that was by washing and drying. And I had to tell Gordon, I thought it was an amazing testament to his work that I took that fabric and I threw it in my washing machine. I threw it in my dryer, and yet still it didn't shrink. And the fabric the pattern didn't twist, and it didn't shrink. It didn't offset. I put a piece of untreated fabric next to washed fabric, and it matched up perfectly. So even though it got a rougher texture, which I liked, it did not affect the weave at all. And that's all down to his excellent work.
Yeah. Oh, here's a really fun comment from Bubba Husky. Says, writing your name on your belt was still pretty popular in the American South, kind of cowboy style, but there are quite a lot of people with Scottish Irish ancestry in these parts. And then he says, wonder if there's any correlation, like dog tags, gun belt, 30-day reviews. Yeah. Oh, it could be. Oh, Romy's here. Hi, Romy.
Hi, Romy. Hi.
I'm trying to get her on the show too, Kristen. Anyway, she didn't respond to me, but maybe I'll bug her now. She says, hi, ladies. Happy to see you, Kristen. Heidi, I got your message and need to reply. I'm so sorry. That is okay. I'm so glad you're here. That's awesome. Well, I was just telling Kristen, Romy, that I'm like, okay, I want to get someone on the show. And I just send them a message like, hey, you want to come on my show? It's kind of like, it's a little bit sad and desperate. She says, I have been up to my eyeballs in work and haven't had so much time to chat. Love to you both from my studio. Oh, hi, Romy. So glad you're here. If anybody doesn't know who Romy is, she's like a super talented costume designer, like super amazing. She's actually in the She's in the Highland Inspired Costumes group. She's also in the Game of Thrones group on Facebook as well. Are you a member of that, Kristen? The Game of Thrones
I'm
group?
not in the Game of Thrones group. I should probably find my way in there.
So sometimes Romy will sometimes post her costumes in there. She does a lot of Game of Thrones actually. And but one of my favorites that she's done. Have you seen her Effie Trinket costume?
No.
Do you like the Hunger Games?
Absolutely.
It is amazing. It's the one that she wears, it's the wig, and then I don't even know, Romy, you'll have to explain it. It's just it's sort of 18th century inspired, like big puff sleeves, and it's taffeta, and then she wears the wig. Anyways, it's unbelievable. I love it. So what else should we talk about here? Do you want to talk about, oh, actually, sorry. I have this other really great picture I can show everybody. So this is, you'll see it and you can talk about this. This is Claire's Apothecary Bag, I believe.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that's something that appeared in season 2, near the end of the season when they get back to Scotland. She goes to visit Blackjack's brother, Alex Randall, and try to heal him. And she's carrying her medicinals in that leather satchel, which is something that I spotted right away and loved. So I made one for myself and then started making them and selling them to other people that wanted them. Several people have received them, but most notably, someone who's received one is Katrina Belf herself. I made one for her. And the same person who delivered the Sporran to Sam delivered that satchel to Kate Belf for me.
And did you hear back from her?
I have not heard back from her yet. She got hers quite late because the way it worked out, when my friend took Sam's Sporran, she had Kate's bag as well, but it was right near Christmas, and Kate had already left for the holiday. Sam was still there, so she was able to get the Sporran to Sam, but was not able to get the bag to Kate until several months later. When they went back to start filming again for season 4, she was able to do it. So really, I'm sure that's the only reason, is it just worked out that way where she got it quite late.
Now, where did you get all these apothecary bottles?
Somebody brought those into my store. They had a whole box of them. And they said, are you interested in buying this sort of thing? Which normally in the surplus store we would not buy. But because I love that stuff, I bought them instantly and brought them home, got some parchment and some calligraphy pens, and wrote out the labels. I actually went and looked on the Outlander Wiki and found a list of all of the different things that Claire uses throughout the books for medicinals, and made sure that I wrote out a list of them and put them on all of the bottles.
So are you able to do calligraphy as well?
That's another thing that I can do marginally. I did it a lot when I was in high school, and I sort of let it go for many years, and then started getting back into it maybe 3 years ago, trying to shake out the cobwebs and learn how to do it again.
Yeah, and then of course you're doing it on your belts as well.
Yep.
Which is beautiful. What other, besides Sassenach, what other sayings do you write on the belts?
I've had some people ask for their clan mottos. There's a few people that have Scottish descent, and they were proud of their family mottos, so I would write that on there. Different phrases from the show, different things that that Jamie has called Claire in his wonderfully charming Gaelic tongue. Really anything anyone requests. A couple of people asked to have the inscription on the inside so that it wouldn't ruin the screen accuracy of it, but they would still have the message on the inside.
Sure. Okay, let me, I just want to go and see what we haven't looked at yet. And again, if you guys have any questions for Kristen, put them in the chat for us, okay? Romy says that she's actually made 2 of the Effie trinket. She said, and she does amazing Game of Thrones, like she's done Daenerys Targaryen. Oh, here, let me show these ones, because this is fun. These are sort of side-by-side comparisons. And then people can sort of see that you've done, here, let me put it on there. Okay, so here's a couple of side-by-side comparisons of you and Katrina Belf. Having issues with her name. So the tartan, this you got from Gordon, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, this one's called Mist and Stone, and it's a reproduction of the one that's there on the right, which was used in a good portion of season 1. The first probably 5 or 6 episodes, she wears that skirt a lot. And I first saw it in these promo shots for season 1. The one that you're seeing there is a promo shot before the first season came out. Loved that instantly and lusted after it. That was the first tartan that I became aware of, and it's actually how I met Jennifer and Gordon, because Jenna and I were both members of another costuming group, and I was showing pictures of this costume and saying, I wish I could find this tartan somewhere. I love it so much. And she messaged me and said, well, you're going to be happy because I'm working on it with my friend Gordon. And I couldn't believe my luck that I happened to run into someone who actually worked on the show, Gordon, and who was going to reproduce this tartan. It was like a dream come true.
Now, is this an actual tartan in existence, or did they make this for the show?
No, it was made for the show.
Oh, okay. So, so he calls, what's this one called again?
Mist and Stone.
Mist and Stone. So I don't know if this is still available, though. Is it? Do you know? From Jennifer Begley?
I'm trying to think if they are. I don't think they're actively weaving this one. It's complicated because in order to weave some fabric like this, they have to have a minimum of 30 yards ordered in order to do it. And so they sort of do them in runs. And I think what they're working on right now are a couple other ones, not this one, but it does come around every once in a while. If there's renewed interest, then they will reweave. If they can get enough yardage sold, they'll do it.
Yeah, so that's what's fun about being in the group, because then if you're in the group, like Jennifer will often do a call out saying, hey guys, we're going to do a new run of a particular tartan. Is anyone interested in it? I'm going to call up this other picture for you, Kristen, to sort of talk about here. And you're wearing, this is the same tartan, I believe, is it? Or is it different?
I'm cheating because I'm wearing that same tartan underneath there because it was more or less a placeholder. I hadn't made that mustard colored skirt that she's wearing. So I was wearing that same tartan underneath, but I was trying to recreate this this outfit from the boar hunt episode in season 1, wearing a cowl there, that little capelet that she's wearing. That also came from Sandy Russo of Knitsy Blonde. I actually bought that from her before I knew who she was, before Jen and I had our own group, when we were a member of another group. I had found her randomly on Etsy and bought it from her probably almost a year before I ever met her.
Yeah. And she does them in a bunch of different colors.
She does. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't even need it to be screen accurate, you can get them like, in all these different pretty colors. And then the bodice that you made there, that's very accurate too. You got the color really good, and the stomacher, which is that center portion. Maybe you want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, that was the stomacher I'm wearing there is the first one I ever made. And it's made of a satin type material, and I boned it with zip ties to get that ribbed sort of pin tucked look. And it's hard to tell in the picture of Kate there, but hers has that same thing. I probably made 5 or 6 different versions of that before I was happy with how it looked, and I've since replaced it with one that looks better. But it was pretty good.
That's one of my favorite stomachers of hers. It's really, really simple, but like you say, with the ribbing, it's really interesting, because the stomacher, I mean, you get the texture of the ribbing, but then it also gives you that stiffness as well, having the boning in there.
Yes, it does. But the thing that I found over time was that I really didn't need the boning in the stomacher necessarily, because I found that the stays were doing the job. So like the first few stomachers I made were boned, and then I sort of went away from it after that, just because I found I didn't need it.
Yeah, Romy just said something really lovely about you. She said, Kristen, you are such a beautiful Claire. I love that you wear pieces in everyday life. Yes, you're living Outlander. I'm gonna make a t-shirt for you that says that. Live an Outlander. Actually, I was going to, I think I've got a picture of you. Is this the same bodice here?
Yeah, same bodice and stomacher there. Yep.
Okay, sorry guys, there it is. Yeah, so you can kind of see the ribs a bit more. And you know what I love about this picture is you can just see the very top of your chemise. Yep. Which is you're wearing that underneath your stays.
Yeah, it's worn underneath my stays, and this particular one you can't see it poking out under my sleeve, but sometimes you can. It's right there. And you can play around with, when you're not wearing a fichu, when you have it open, you can play around with how the chemise drawstring is pulled to have more or less of it showing, depending on the look that you want.
Sure. This is one of my favorite bodices. I love the way the sleeves have just a slight little bell there and then a bit of a tuck. And it's such a pretty, it's so simple, but so pretty. And I also love the color of this. This is one of my favorites of her bodices. That sort
Me
of
too.
teal blue
I love
color.
the teal, and I love how it goes with that tartan. It's one of my all-time favorite costumes of hers is that tartan and that bodice. I love it. So I probably wear that one more than anything.
Yeah. So, and so compared to, like, say, Kristen's wearing this bodice here, which we were showing at the beginning, doesn't have the stays. It's got like hooks or whatever at the front. So this one here has a stomacher, which is that sort of triangular section that goes underneath the lacing. Now, how do you keep yours in place? I'm sure I've asked you this before. Do you pin it to your stays, or does it just slide in underneath the laces and stay in place?
I used to slide it in because I saw Claire do that on the show a few times, and it certainly will work. But I found that if I move around a lot, it would shift around, and I was constantly adjusting it. So I did what most people did back then and pin it directly to my stays first, and then put my bodice over top.
Yeah. And actually, if you look at pictures, like historical pictures of stays, they often have like little holes, like places for the pins to go. Like they have little tabs on them. Ones I've seen in museums. Yeah. Not all of them. Yours doesn't though, right?
Some of mine do. Like this one that you're seeing here doesn't have tabs on it, but I have made some others that did. I found that I really didn't need the tabs all that much, so I stopped putting them on there. But we've seen extant ones that are done both ways.
Oh, sorry, guys. I said chemise. I just, it's sort of interchangeable, I think, with a shift. So a shift would probably be the Canadian or the British term, Scottish term, and then a chemise would probably be more the French term. So it's just basically like a very simple tunic that you wear underneath like a foundation garment, like your pajamas sort of thing, or your underwear. Right. Now, do we know, I'm going to ask you this. I couldn't find anything about it. Do we know if Claire wears any type of actual underwear?
More than likely not.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
like drawers or whatever. Yeah.
Like what we think of as underpants really didn't come in until around the Victorian era, and they were different then. They were kind of, well, I mean, we all know what bloomers are. They were very similar to that, with an open crotch so that you could go to the bathroom. But during the time that Claire was back in Scotland, you didn't really wear undergarments like that.
Yeah. So
your shift was your undergarments.
Your shift was and it would come to your knees though. So it wouldn't be like
Yeah.
And then you'd have your petticoats. So you'd have a lot of coverage. But the idea is when we see that one scene where she, if anybody's seen this episode where they're doing the walking the wool, and she climbs into the bucket and she lifts her skirt up, she just kind of pees because there's nothing to really hinder it, right?
Right.
Or when her and Jamie are frolicking. There's nothing really there. There's easy access there. Exactly. Oh, Sarah's here. Sarah Scott says, this is just a general question. Since you're talking about corsets and stays, do you think that women in real life in the past would have tightly tied their corset stays or just worn them loosely?
Well, for stays versus corsets, it's different because, again, corsets, by the time a proper corset came along, the goal was to make your waist as small as humanly possible. So they would tight lace them a lot for fashion. Now, since women have worn those garments from the poorest all the way up to the richest, you probably would have some variation in how tightly they were laced, depending on whether it was someone who was a very fashionable lady and wanted to have that look versus someone working. And it's true, basically the same for stays, except that stays weren't really trying to make your waist super small. It did sort of do it a little bit, but really it was trying to flatten this and make your hips look bigger is what the goal was there. So tight lacing wasn't really a thing back then, but I'm sure there are probably cases where working women may not have worried too much about closing them. In fact, I'm not going to take my bodice off, but when I'm wearing my stays right now, I don't have them touching edge to edge. There's a little bit of a gap there because it's more comfortable, and I found that I didn't need to pull it all the way together. It looked basically the same on me now as it does there with it drawn together. So I left a little bit of breathing room because it was more comfortable.
Yeah, and if you were pregnant or something, you would loosen them, obviously. You wouldn't have them tightly done up because you'd allow for the stomach, it would spread out a bit. There were also these things, Kristen, I found called jumps, which were like
Yeah.
a sort of softer, it wasn't quite like a rigid stay the same way that sorry, I can't get my cursor on here. I'm having issues. There we go. Yeah, I could. So they wouldn't have been as rigid. They just look kind of like a vest in a way.
Right.
You know
Often,
what I'm talking about?
actually, we've seen jumps used in Outlander a couple of times. There's a scene where Claire's at Lallybroch and she is wearing what we believe are meant to be jumps in the show. She wore that bodice actually once before when she was at Castle Leoch, and it's the one that has no sleeves and it has a sort of diagonal stripe on it and wraps in the front like this.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah.
That's
and
basically
when they're
what
doing
jumps
the,
are.
doing the laundry. Yeah. So it's sort of like a working sort of vest. So it's a little softer and it doesn't, and yeah. So, but also, and she does wear a lot of the front facing front closure stays as well, right? Like when there's one scene, I think, when she's getting dressed in the bedroom and she's tying up her stays herself, they're in the front. Whereas at the very beginning with Mrs. Fitz, I think Mrs. Fitz is tying her in quite tightly. So you might not tie yourself maybe as tightly if you don't have a lady maid to help you.
Yeah, that's true. And also a lot of times you would find stays that were both front and back lacing, and that was to allow for a little more adjustment. The first pair that I made was like that, where it was front and back lacing. And really it would depend on probably your social stature. Like you said, if you didn't have a lady's maid, I doubt you'd have back lacing because you couldn't do it yourself very well. It can be done, but it's much easier to do front lacing. And we've seen examples of both on Outlander, as you said.
Yeah. And like the one, yeah, because I think the ones at the very beginning, they're kind of like a linen color. And then she has these other ones that are kind of more like a greeny color. And there's a couple of scenes where she's wearing those that I noticed at the front. I don't know that they had the back lacing. I think maybe you noticed that, but I didn't notice that myself. Just so that she could do it herself.
When she went back through the stones in season 3, she sort of made her own she made her entire outfit. They called it the bat suit. And her stays that she made, she actually took a zipper from one of those corselettes from the 60s. I don't know if you remember those, but she took a zipper out of that, put it in the front, and Jamie was bewildered by the zipper. He couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, because of course it wouldn't have been invented until like quite a few years later, right?
Right.
Right. Have you made any of her more contemporary outfits at all? You haven't made anything from like the future, I guess, right?
No, that I haven't done because I don't know. It's one of those things like Katrina looks great in everything that they put her in. It doesn't matter what they put her in. She looks fantastic because she has that model's body, because of course she was a model before. And a lot of the clothes they picked for her, even in the 40s, were still very fitted and they worked well with a slender frame like that. I don't really have that frame. So I think it's why I shy away from it, because I'm bigger on top. I'm always self-conscious about that. And like that beautiful shift dress that she wore when she went through the stones the first time.
Oh,
other
yeah.
people can pull that off well, but I don't think I could. So I think that's why I stay with this.
Yeah, actually, I think that Natasha made that one, the one with the shawl, with the keyhole neckline. Is that the one you're speaking of?
Yep.
I wanted to show this picture of you. I really love this bodice here. Let me put it on there, guys. This one here. So what season is that one from?
That's season 1. That's from The Search, when she has to go and find Jamie after he's been taken by the Redcoats. It's actually the first bodice I ever made.
Yeah, so I love this one because it doesn't have the little skirt, but it's got a tiny, cute little peplum, and then it's got the detachable sleeves. So were you able to take a pattern? Like, was the pattern, did it have the detachable sleeves, or did you have to sort of modify the pattern for that?
Nope, it wasn't. That's the same JP Ryan pattern I used to make this bodice. But basically for the sleeves, I just made the sleeves and didn't set them into the bodice. You just instead you finish the edges, and I hand finished lacing holes around the edges, and then put it on with some cording.
Yeah. So how did you finish the edges then? Did you just use some bias or something, or what did you do there?
No, I punched the holes with an awl, with a sewing awl, and
Yep.
just pushed it through. And then I used embroidery floss and I buttonhole stitched around them all.
Oh, okay. But how did you finish the actual edge? Did you just turn it under and sew it down, or?
The edge of the fabric, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the white that's coming out, is that the shift, or is that
Yep.
you wearing there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I
yeah.
love it. Yeah. I can't see. I don't know if I have a picture of the front of it. Let me see if I have a picture of the front so we can see. Because you do have a stomacher, it looks like, on that.
Yeah, it's the same ribbed stomacher from the other one.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Mhm.
What's this picture here? This is something completely different. This is not Outlander. What is this? Lord of the
No,
Rings?
I made that dress probably 10 years ago from blankets. And it started out a little differently than it is there. In that picture there, it's got a jacquard ribbon around the neckline, but originally the neckline laced up a bit. And I took that inspiration from Susan Pevensy's green dress from Lion Witch in the Wardrobe that she wore. First
Oh,
thing she got.
okay. Yeah, I love it.
And
It's
then
beautiful.
I've later added some things on, and some people will notice there I'm wearing needle.
Sorry, Needle the sword?
Yes, the sword is needle from
Oh,
Game of Thrones.
oh, it is. Where'd you get it?
Oh, that's the official replica from ValerianSteel.com.
Oh, wow. It's great. Have you no, you haven't done her though, right? You haven't ever done Arya?
No, I sort of think I will now because her season 7 look I think I could pull off a little better because she
Mm-hmm.
looks a little older. You know, I mean, I love that outfit that she had early on with the doublet or tunic that kind of looked like it was made from strips of burlap. It looked
Yeah.
great, but she looks so young in that. I
Yeah.
couldn't pull that off. I'm too old for that. And plus I'd seen it done so much better than I could ever do. But her season 7 look is really cool with the leather padded doublet and
Yeah.
and that kind of cobalt blue underskirt and
Yeah.
her hair back and the and needle and the cat's paw dagger. I love that. So I may try that in the future.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. And then would you try making that cloak she wears as well? The one that's sort
Yeah,
of like,
definitely.
yeah, that would be, I found some fabric that might work for that, by the way. So if you ever decide
Oh,
to
30
do
Days
that.
said he'd like the shoulder piece. That shoulder
Yeah, oh
piece that
yeah.
I'm wearing,
It's very
that's
nice.
from one of my husband's Predator costumes. It's one of the shoulder
Oh,
belts from the AVP Predator that he wears. It's made
yeah.
of latex.
Yeah, so it's sort of pliable, right?
Yeah, and then I made a leather strap for it and wear it on my
Yeah.
shoulder. I wore that to Ren Fair one day and I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, this dress kind of has a bit of a Viking feel to me.
A
Like,
little bit, maybe, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because actually, I don't know if anyone's ever seen, there was a movie that came out in the, I think it was the late 90s or early 2000s. It was ironically called Outlander, but it wasn't our Outlander. It was starring Sophia Myles and can't think of the main character's name, the guy, but it has to do with a guy who's from another planet and he crash lands on Earth in the north of England somewhere during the Viking period. And
Oh, that's
Sophia
very
Myles
cool.
plays this character called Freya, who's a Viking princess. And
Mhm.
her costume, her dress looks very much like this one I'm wearing here.
Yeah, but you look like, is it got a petticoat underneath it, or did you just put sort of panels in there?
No, I made it out of different colored green wool blankets, and I made little insert panels that were a lighter green to
Yeah,
accent it.
I love it. It's so nice.
The sleeve, you can't really tell there because it's hidden by the shoulder piece, but the sleeves have those little slits in them that you see in medieval dresses, and there's some overdyed green silk in there.
Oh yeah, it's just beautiful. I'm gonna see if I can find another. Oh, here's another one. I think this is a JP Ryan as well. Is this were you
Nope,
you is this McCall's then?
that's the McCall's M7735. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is one you were attempting to do these sort of box pleats in the peplum. Or did the pattern come like that, or did you have to do that yourself?
I had to change the peplum a bit because they had a sort of complicated way of doing the pleats. And when I looked at the screen reference, I could see that they had just pleated the peplum to match the seam lines in the back of the bodice. So I just did that and it came out much better.
Oh, sorry. Romy says that it was Jim Caviezel who was Kanan
Yes,
in that
Kanan, that was
movie.
his
I'm gonna
name.
look for
That's
that movie.
right.
That sounds like a really good movie.
It's really neat. I really
Yeah,
like that movie. It's super cool. And I love the costume that Freya wears through most of
yeah.
it. I tried to make a version of it. It's like a powder blue peasant kind of medieval gown, like what I was wearing there, but it has like a heavy homespun linen, sort of an apron over it with this beautiful embroidered piece on the front. And one of these years, I'm going to make that costume because it's so cute.
Yeah. Now, Kristen, that brings me to, like, besides Outlander, what, like, I mean, I know obviously you have the ones that you've done, you love Ray. What other types of movies and shows are you sort of keen on? I know you and I have very similar tastes, but what other stuff do you like?
Well, you guys saw before that I'm into Predators. You know, my husband and I both love the Predator and Alien movies. They actually have an alien costume too, like a proper xenomorph alien, whole full latex suit that I haven't built yet. Star Wars, of course.
Well, we have, oh, this is a Dark Star here. Oh, that's just Dark Star photography. What's this
Yep.
from?
That character is called Celine. She's from
Mm.
movies, the Underworld movie. She's a vampire that likens.
Yes, of course. And that's Kate Beckinsale is
Yes.
the actor. Yeah.
Mhm.
And she's got the very blue eyes, right? Did you do contacts though, or did you?
I did.
You
Yep,
did
I
do
have the
contacts.
super blue contacts. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like a cat suit, like a what was the fabric made out of?
It's a stretch lycra that's like a black metallic. It has almost like a wetsuit look to it. But it's actually I made that cat suit probably 15 years ago now. Now you can go to Joann's and in the Yaya Han fabrics, she has a coated stretch lycra that's almost identical to this. In fact, I'm probably going to make a new suit soon because my original's quite worn out.
Now, have you bought any of her fabrics? Because I was reading some of the reviews. Some of them were like not that positive.
I have actually my in my Star Wars realm, I have some Yaya Han fabrics for my Rey. The head wrap is made of that.
Mhm.
And then I also have a Kylo Ren costume, and my basket weave fabric is the Yaya Han stuff.
Now, Pretty Dark, she said she'd be a great Aaron's son from Farscape. Do you know what that show is?
I do have heard of Farscape, have never watched it, so I'd have to look and see.
Yeah. Let me see. So, and I don't know if I showed you guys all of your, I probably didn't do all of them. This is probably frustrating for you because you can't kind of go through. So here's your alien predator.
Yeah, that's
Predator alien, I should say. So
mm-hmm, that's my Predator costume.
Yeah. So if you guys hadn't seen this before, we showed these on the other stream we did. Is that you then too? So
Yep,
you're wearing sort of like some type of a suit underneath it, like a lycra suit of some type.
It is. It's a bodysuit that it's a bodysuit, and I hand painted it.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And then here's another one. Now who's
hubby and I?
Oh, you're sitting on the Iron Throne.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's so awesome. How did you do the footwear on that?
No, his suit was bought, and but mine I made completely from scratch, and my feet I made in kind of a unique way. There's lifts in there. What I did was I took some chunky heeled boots that had about a 4-inch heel on them, and I put them inside a pair of wool socks that I turned inside out, and then I latexed out the whole outside of it, covered over it with latex, and glued on some little toes that I had made. I took a pair of latex monster hands and cut the fingers off, used the fingers for toes, glued them on, and then latexed over the whole thing and painted it.
That's amazing. And how did you do the hair, like the dreads?
Those I buy from a guy called Casey McCabe. They're cold cast foam.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I have a close-up picture of them here. Yeah. So yeah, someone said about your cheekbones. You have really great cheekbones in this picture.
Well, yeah.
Here's that. Now, did Dark Star do this picture? This is a really great picture.
Those pictures were taken by Sean M. Scott.
And so how did you do this? How did you do the fog and everything?
That was a little trick he came up with. He's got a little fog canister, and he had an assistant stand behind me, and he set up a strobe light back there that was synced to his camera, and he would tell the assistant when to hit the fog, and then when he would snap the picture, the remote flash in the back would flash and show off the background. That's
amazing. What's this one here? This is just in your, is this in your home? Oh, here's another one from the photo shoot. That's like, that one is brilliant.
I do love that picture. It makes
Yeah.
my costume look better than it actually is.
Yeah, because it's kind of like it's being highlighted with the fog.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
100% stretch made by me.
that's so brilliant. So, what's this location that you're doing this at? It's
That
kind
was
of
in Grand
interesting.
Rapids, Michigan. It was a comic convention I went to in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And this was actually upstairs near a green room. They gave us a room to dress in. And this was like a mechanical service corridor. We picked it because we liked the background.
Yeah, no, the back because it looks very kind of industrial or something. It looks like I don't know. It's really neat. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, no. Oh, what is Bubba says, I made my predator feet out of authentic alien feet. Oh, Bubba, you made a predator. So cool. And Sarah says, wow, that alien costume is amazing. And 30 Days says, what did you paint under the fishnet? Oh, I think you're talking about the skin. Yeah, you're talking about her bodysuit. Is it fishnet over top of a bodysuit, or is that just the print of the fabric?
No, it is. I'm wearing a fishnet body stocking over top of the lycra
Okay.
suit.
Yeah. So that's what sort of, really adds to it, all these, all the textures and everything that you've done there. So let me see if there's anything else we haven't showed everybody to see. Here, I'll go to you, Kristen. Or are you talking to people? Kristen is answering your questions on the fly. Okay, here. So you guys, I've talked a little bit about how Kristen loves to dress Outlander. This is her going to work. So here's an example of where I love these boots. I've talked to you about these boots before. So here's an example. This is sort of a mini Arisaid, we could say, I guess, or a remnant you had. So tell me a little bit about you wearing this to work.
I struck a deal last year with the owner of the kilt shop out at my local Ren Fair, and he had seen me out at Ren Fair in my Claire costumes, and his girlfriend loved the skirts, and he wanted me to make her one of my Outlander skirts, but he wanted to use some of the fabric that he can get from his business. So he had me pick out a tartan that I liked, and this one that I picked is it's a common tartan. It's black watch, but it's weathered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the colors are much more earthy, which I like a lot better. I picked this fabric and he sent me some of it. I made her a skirt, and I had a remnant left over. I made this little sort of poncho out of it, where it was just 2 strips of tartan that were about probably 18 inches wide and about maybe 3 feet long each. And I put the 2 together at a right angle to make that point in the front, stitched them together, and then just wrapped it around my body.
Yeah, and then and what did you? I know I talked to you about these boots. Where'd you get these boots again? They're so amazing.
I bought them on eBay. They're from a company called Brickhells. They make a bunch of different types of boots, and I saw that pair and fell in love with them. So I ordered them, and then when they came and I saw that they fit me perfectly, I went and bought every other color that they make in them. So I have like 4 or 5 pairs of them now.
So now, what's happened? Like, so when you show up at work wearing some of your Outlandery stuff, what's the response at work?
I get very good responses. You'd think people would think it was weird, but for some reason they don't. I mean, It depends on the level of elaborateness. I mean, this picture here, I'm just, sort of implying it with some tartan, and that's a poncho look. That's pretty common. You see that a lot, and that doesn't really raise an eyebrow, but I've gone to work before in my full Claire costume just because I felt like wearing it. And I've worn it out to the store before. People stop me and they ask me about it because it's so striking. You don't see stuff like that. And they seem to respond to the level of detail and the varying textures and colors. It's all positive. I've never heard anyone say, wow, what are you doing? Like, no one's ever said that. They're amazed.
Yeah, here's one of you. Oh, can everyone see that? Here's one of you wearing a full, actually wearing a matching Arisaid and a matching skirt. Did you wear this? Did you wear this to work, or was this a Ren Fair thing?
Yeah, on my way to work one day. Yeah, not wearing stays or anything like that. I was wearing the skirt. I had I think if I remember right, I had a kind of a gray colored tank top on, and I threw a gray knitted sweater over top of that, then wrapped the Arisaid on. And it was just a really cool look.
Yeah, it was kind of a cold day that day, so nice and comfy and cozy.
Yep.
Now, one of the things I think I just mentioned briefly to you guys is that Kristen did a really great how to drape an Arisaid video that we have on the channel, and she kind of goes. It's actually you did it originally for the Highlander inspired costumes group, and then I saw it. And I'm like, hey, Kristen, would you mind if I use that? And I shared it. And actually, I had a really great comment the other day that a woman was wondering if you would do a video on how to dress in, from head, kind of from start to finish. And so we sort of have talked about that, where Kristen would actually, like, we'll start with the stays and then add the bodice and the stomacher and the petticoats and all that. Now, speaking of that, now under your skirt, under your petticoat, your top petticoat, your tartan, what do you wear underneath that? You have your bum roll?
Yeah, I start out, the very first layer, of course, like we talked before, is my shift. It's big undershirt, basically. I have that on first, and then I'll put on stockings. I wear wool or cotton thigh-length stockings that I put on and tie above my knee.
That's period correct. Yeah.
Yep. And then I'll wear some boots, usually some low slip-on suede or leather boots that I'll wear. And you need to put those on before you put your stays on, because it's not easy to bend afterwards. So I do that first. So shift goes on, then stockings go on, then boots go on, then stays go on. After the stays are laced up and I've got my body shape looking the way I want it, then the bum roll goes on. That goes around my waist and is tied at my waist. Yeah. I put on my hanging pockets next, which are on my hips, and let me carry all my things.
I've never seen you post a picture of those.
I'll have to
Here's
show
the
you
bum roll, everybody.
Here's the bum roll.
Yeah, well, when Sheila was on, she had done some, so we showed them on. But for everybody who doesn't know what pockets are, do you want to explain a little bit what that is?
Yep. In the 18th century, purses weren't really a thing for women like they are now. So to carry your things, you had pockets, and they're basically like if you took a pair of jeans and you looked at what the pocket looks like on the inside, the sort of white fabric little pocket part of it, they're like that, only a lot bigger. Two of those, and they're attached to a drawstring which goes around your waist. You basically tie these pockets around, tie the string around your waist, and the pockets hang on your hips. And they've got a slit in them. When you wear your outer skirt, it's got side slits in it, so you can reach in through your skirt into the pockets, and you can get the things that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good too, because then it's sort of hidden. Like here's a picture, for instance, of Claire. You're wearing her Claire outfit here, but on the right is the actor, and you can see her. She's got her hands inside the skirt through the slits.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And probably sitting in her pockets. I do that all the time when I'm walking around, because I see Claire do it on the show. It's sort of her thing. So I do it.
So what would a woman in the 18th century have kept in her pockets? Do you know?
All sorts of things, depending on what she was doing, where she was going. I mean, certainly you would keep money in there, probably in a small little drawstring bag or something. You would keep money, keys to things we carry around now, really. I mean, not cosmetics, obviously, but Claire might put some herbs in there, or some other little thing that she saved. For a while, she carried around her wedding present there. She had the dragonfly and amber carried in her pocket. So all sorts of different things, personal belongings and things. Sometimes a skein do, a little knife for protection.
Yeah, because I think it was season 2. Her cell phone. Like in season 2, I think she was, they showed her how to use a knife, which of course it ended up being a plot point. She ended up needing it later on. I have this picture here. Are you wearing that dress, and then you're wearing the Arisaid over top of it? Is that what that is?
No, that's a jacket that I made. It's it's made out of the same material, which is why it looks the same. It's made out of the exact same blankets, but that jacket is, if anyone out there watching is familiar with the Regency era costuming, Jane Austen, things like that. This jacket is called a pelisse. It's a fitted bodice with a really long full skirt, like a walking gown.
Oh, because have you, when did you make that?
I made that probably 7-8 years ago. And I wear it all the time.
So was there a particular Jane Austen that you were inspired by that you came up with that?
Yes, it was, oh, which one was, I'm trying to think now, which
Like
exact
Sense and
one it was.
Sensibility?
It was, actually, now that you mention it, it was. I was watching
Yeah.
it was one of the more recent episodic versions of Sense and Sensibility, and she wore a powder blue one like
Oh,
that.
okay.
And I loved it. And it was like, you can't see it in this picture because the Arisaid's covering it, but the front of it, it's almost like how Claire's bodices are, where it doesn't close all the way, but it's got a central piece, almost like a stomacher, that
Yeah.
comes together with hooks and eyes, and that's what this one has.
Oh, okay. And then you've got, of course, you've got the apothecary bag there. So you've got, this is like a mashup. You're doing a mashup here, Kristen.
Yep, I know. And generally, I
I
I
love that.
definitely don't care for mashups, but here I did do a mashup. I did a Jane Austen and Outlander mashup.
I love that. I love that.
It's Janeslander.
Now, this outfit here, how much yardage do you think you used, like for the skirt and the Arisaid? That's quite a lot of tartan fabric.
There are 6 yards in that skirt, and there's 4 yards in the Arisaid.
Mm-hmm. And now for the skirts, I mean, a lot of the girls I've talked to, they don't even bother with the pattern. They just pleat it. Is that what you do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there really isn't a pattern needed for this style of skirt because it's basically 2 giant rectangles that are joined together on the sides to make a big tube. And then you pleat the top of it down to 2 separate little waistbands, and it ties on you front and back.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And sorry, is this one, is this Black Watch as well? Is that what this one is?
Black
Oh, this is Black. Yeah. So is that like a really popular tartan, like in Scotland?
It is. Yep, it's probably one of the most well-known ones because, for example, when, as you know, after Culloden, after the clearances, tartan was banned for a good many years, and it was actually Queen Victoria who brought it back into fashion because when she would visit Scotland often, she loved it, and she would start wearing tartans, and so it became acceptable again to wear tartans. They started giving tartans to the Queen's Guard when she would go to Scotland. They would wear the Black Watch pattern. It was created for that. The name Black Watch comes, of course, from we saw that in Outlander, that there were Scottish people who were employed by the British to keep the locals in line. They didn't have that tartan back then. That came later on, but it's a very common tartan. Especially, you'll find it used in school kids' uniforms. The girls that will have tartan skirts, it's Black Watch. 9 times out of 10, it's Black Watch.
Yeah, because what was I going to say about the it was sort of like the Victorians that sort of made the tartan popular again, and then of course now to this day you see the royal family. Oftentimes you'll see them wearing tartan for sporting events, that type of thing. It's very, very popular. But the contemporary,
she purchased Balmoral Castle, and they used it as a vacation spot because her and she loved Scotland so much when she visited it that they ended up buying Balmoral Castle, and they used it as one of the official residences.
Yeah, Bubba's saying apothecary.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's like a doctor's bag, right? Like it's a sort of old-fashioned. I love that word. I think it's such a great word. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions you want to ask? Now, Kristen, so, we talked a little bit about, so you make the belts and you make the apothecary bags and you make the Sporrans. So where are you selling your products now? I put a link for you, but where's the best place for people to contact you about that?
Well, if they're interested in the Outlander related leather goods, then the best place to get a hold of me is on Facebook. I see you do have a link there in the comments to a couple of groups, but you have it listed as Outlander inspired costumes, which is what we normally call it.
I'm gonna change that. I was a boo-boo.
We did change it, but it's called Highland Inspired Costumes now. People can search that on Facebook, find the group, join it, and I sell my stuff basically through there. I don't have an Etsy. I really just kind of sell through the group. But I'm always interested in a custom project. So even if it's not, an Outlander leather project you want, but you have some other leather thing you'd like to do, you can always contact me on Facebook, and then just show me what you're interested in, and I'll work with it.
Yeah, and so it's for anybody if you're interested in joining it, it is a closed group. So you have to just I don't know if Jennifer asks a question, she might ask you a question or
Yep,
you might
question.
ask a question
Mhm.
to join. But then once you're in there kind of thing, it's a really great group. Everyone's really lovely. I've met some really very cool people through that. And then also the Ray group as well. I kind of lurk because I'm not as much, into Star Wars. But it was so funny because you didn't know I was in there.
I didn't.
Kristen, I posted something and Kristen's like, oh my God, since when are you in this group? I'm a terrible mod. I didn't even know you were in here. I'm like, yeah, I snuck in there. It's sort of like the way I don't really post much because I don't do that, but it's some amazing recreations of Ray. And she has, how many different looks does she have now?
There's gosh, 4 or 5 because let's see, you have the full scavenger, you have the basic kind of Ray, which is without the head wrap and the goggles and all that. So that's 2. And then at the end of the Force Awakens, you have the Resistance outfit, which is a vest and some gauntlets and different pants. So that's 3. You get into Last Jedi, and she has what we call Training Ray, which is that Resistance one, except she takes off the vest and the gauntlets. It's just kind of her shirt where she's training. And then you have the hero costume from the end with this dark brown, sort of almost a karate gi with some gray wraps on it. So I guess that is 5 now, 5 so far.
Yeah, Sheila's done one. Sheila and her friend, they did Ray.
Amy Miller, right?
What's that?
I think her friend Amy Miller.
Amy Miller, yeah. They I think she said what she told me when she was on here is that Amy is really good with the leather work, like the accessories. So Amy does that, and then she's good with the sewing, so she does the sewing. So it's sort of a nice sort of pair, like mutual. They contribute to each other. Oh yeah, she's saying yes, Amy. And then so okay, so I know you're going to finish up this outfit. You want to do the skirt first because if anybody didn't see Kristen, she's wearing a full-on Outlander, looking lovely. She's going to model for us. So we were sort of talking about the bodice. She's still now. You said this skirt isn't the skirt, although the color looks good because it's sort of in that nice golden brown.
Yeah, the skirt that she wears with this is I think it's a linen, but it's got a block pattern, which I haven't figured out how to do yet. So this is just a placeholder. It was the right color, so I put it on, but this tiered look is not right at all. If I was going to go to an event, I wouldn't wear this on the outside. I'd probably wear the one that's under it, which is just a brown wool.
Yeah.
But it looked too plain, so I put this on over top of it. Just
I like it. So this is what it looks like here, guys. So it's sort of a linen, like you say, it's sort of block printed. And then she's wearing the shawl. She's got a couple of different types of these shawls, actually. She's got the wrench shawl. What are you calling this one?
That one's Sandy Russo gave that the nickname the Carolina shawl because of course they're in
the Carolinas, in the colonies or whatever. And so you're going to finish that off. What big projects do you have planned after that?
Well, I'm making another costume from season 4 already, and it's just I don't have a picture of it to show you, but it's this beautiful dark blue matching bodice and skirt, and then this lovely, it closes in the front like this does, and it's got some hand sewn ribbon detail, but then the fichu she's wearing is it reminds me of China, which is white, and then it has little blue details. It has these little blue rosettes all over it. It's so gorgeous. She looks so stunning.
Oh yeah, that one's really gorgeous. And it's sort of when she's is it a plantation? Is that what it is?
It looks like that to me, yeah. And she's wearing an apron over it with a faded tartan pattern on it. That's the next one that I'm going to work on.
Yeah, it was funny because one of the guys in the group, he was saying it reminded him of Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and then Terry got kind of mad about that. She's like,
that was Sean McGuire.
But it's a beautiful blue. It's sort of like, it's not like a dark blue, right? It's sort of a little bit of a brighter blue.
It's kind of between, like, it's not dark like a navy. It's kind of like a royal blue sort of. And depending on the picture that you see, but it's very stunning. And she looks so gorgeous in it. And I think Sean is right. It does kind of have that Belle look to it because the cut of the bodice and the way that the fichu is on there and everything, it gives you that impression. And plus the blue.
Yeah, and I mean, what I said to him is it's sort of it's a pretty common thing to put the ingenue in blue, like that's sort of the common theme. Like I think that's where he was coming up with it, like the Wizard of Oz, got Dorothy, or you have Belle, who's the ingenue, she's in blue. So it's sort of a common thing, and then and it's sort of offset against the more colonial woman in the plantation. She's got the little lace cap and she's got a lace fichu as opposed to Claire, I think she's less she's more no nonsense. She likes to have just the simple things.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to do all the frou-frou and all the, whereas the other lady, is it Yocasta? What's her name?
That's Aunt Jocasta, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
played by Maria Doyle Kennedy.
Yeah.
Fantastic actress.
Yeah, she was in another big show. What was the show she was in? I recognized her.
Orphan Black.
Orphan Black. Okay, yeah. So they've got so her costume's a little bit more. So Claire's is a much more simple. And is it a linen or is it a wool, or what do you think it is?
That looks to me like a worsted wool or a wool melton, probably is what that is.
Okay. So you're going to be working on that. When are you going to start doing that?
I'm probably going to start working on that within the next couple of weeks. What I have to do is the fabric that I've chosen for that comes from Mood. And it's a bit expensive. It's about $25 a yard or so. And I'm going to need need at least 8 yards, maybe a little bit more. So I just got to save up a little bit of money and then I'll buy it. I've already bought the fichu and made that. It worked out perfectly. I tested it with a dark blue bodice I had just to see if it looked good, and it does. So I think I can use this same pattern, but the bodice is a little different. The way the front is, the peplum comes together in the front. It's a little different, so I'll have to modify it.
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know what Mood Fabrics is, they have a really great online shop. I think they're out of New York.
Yes.
I actually, a lot of times, when I'm sort of doing costume analysis, I oftentimes say, oh, here's something that's really good. Price point is pretty good compared to some of the more higher end stores. What places do you like to shop at?
Well, if I can get it locally, I will. Joann's is right down the road for me. And if I can find something, I'll go there. But for that particular thing, I can never really find wools in Joann, not what I want, like meltons and stuff. They don't carry it. All they really have is wool felt, which isn't really, it's similar, but it's not the same. So that teal bodice that I have that you really like.
Oh, I love
that. That came from fabric.com. That was a wool melton I bought there. But I looked in that same collection for this one, but they didn't have a blue that was the right color. So the one I found at Mood is it's a boiled wool that I was considering, and I sent a link of it to Romy because I wanted her opinion on it, and she said she thought it was a fantastic choice. So
awesome.
That's what sold me on it.
Yeah, I love how you guys all kind of help each other. Oh, hi, Rigor. Rigor's here. How are you? Getting some late arrivals. That's awesome. So the fabric.com is a really great one. I oftentimes, again, I cite that, and their prices are pretty good. This is the thing, like when I was younger, like when I was, studying theater and so on, we didn't have the internet. It's so great now. And like, for instance, Sheila, she says she pretty much gets everything from Amazon. Do you like shopping there at all?
I've never bought, well, I shouldn't say I've never bought fabric there. I have bought fabric a few times on Amazon. Yeah.
I don't know that she gets fabric from there, but she gets a lot of her things that she's looking for. Like if she's looking for supplies or whatever, she oftentimes gets it from there. She's told me. Maybe she'll explain in the chat here.
I think I think I tend to go more instinctively towards eBay or Etsy. Just because I'm more familiar with those platforms, but Amazon is good too. There's tons of stuff on there. It's just, I know how to find things easier on Etsy or eBay. So I think I sort of go there instinctually.
Yeah. And then if for anybody who doesn't know what Etsy is, it's sort of like, they do vintage, but they also do, crafting, like, a lot of the fandom, they'll recreate items that you might find online or, on the show, and they'll say, oh, here, we'll reproduce this for you. So, and then they sell them to the public. And I've bought lots of stuff from there myself, just not even to do with the shows or anything, but just in general, because the stuff is so beautiful. And of course, Knitsy Blonde, who we've spoken about. She sells through there. Romy, I don't know if you're still here. I'm not sure if Romy has an Etsy store. She has her own like Facebook page as well. So it's McFadden Designs, I think. Is that correct?
Design Studio, yep.
McFadden Design Studios, but she also works as a costume designer, but then she does this on the side. So, and anyway, the other thing I was going to mention though, guys, is I think in the channel or in the description, I did put like some of the sources of these things too for you that I'd had from last time. But if you do join the oh my God, I'm going to keep doing this. If you join the Highland Inspired Costumes group, there is a resource list there that's amazing. Like, so if you're looking for particular items, Kristen and Jennifer have pretty much listed everything that you can need to create an Outlander costume. And if you join the Game of Thrones group, it's the same thing. They have like a really great resource list of things like if you need to find, besides the stuff that I always sort of mention that you can, places you can get stuff. And then Kristen says my Facebook name now has changed. Oh, it's changed. Okay, so I'll fix that. It says I use Google to search Amazon by using the site address where site address would be wherever domain name is. I don't know what that means. It's too late for me. What does that mean? Oh, Tatiana, she just messaged me. She's going to try and come into the group.
Okay.
She is, I'll just tell her we're still live streaming. She is my girl. We're still, and I wanted to mention actually, so Tatiana, who is probably one of my earliest viewers, I think from she's been with me pretty much since the beginning, her and Aaron, and they're both like really young. They're both in like their early 20s. She's applying actually she wants to become a costume designer. So I actually had messaged Romy at one point because I get a lot of young people. This is what's really fun about the channel. I get a lot of young people who approach me like, I would love to go into design. How do I go about that? So I actually did hit up Romy about that, asking her where would be some good places to apply. So Tatiana, she wants to apply for a master's program in design. So she's looking around the east side of the US right now for that. And then of course, Aaron, who was here earlier, he is like sort of an aspiring designer as well. So I've got these two young people. So what we did was I wanted to do a top 20 best costumes, women's costumes of Game of Thrones. I haven't done one for Outlander yet. I might need your help on that, Kristen, if I do that. So they said they would do it with me because I'm like, I don't know what to pick. Like, honestly, people always say, what's your favorite outfit from a show? And I'm always like, I don't know. I can't decide this stuff. It's too hard for me. So between the three of us, we kind of brainstormed. It took us a whole week. Like, it took us a long time. And we came up with 20 outfits. So we're going to be showing that episode will probably be out next week. And then I'm going to have the two of them come on the live stream, and we're just going to sit around and talk about how we came up with that list. Kristen, would you be able to say what your favorite Outlander outfit is if I asked you on the spot?
Oh gosh, I had to pick one, but yes, I think I could pick one. Yeah.
Okay. Would it be the wedding gown?
No, I mean, not that I don't love it. It's gorgeous. It really is, but I don't think that's my favorite one. No.
Okay.
My favorites always tend towards the Scottish Highland look instead of the nicer, fancier gowns. And I think my favorite one is probably the one that she wore in the Hail Mary, that one with the Honor and Redemption teal tartan, and the rent shawl and the teal bodice. And I love that look. It's like I get a vibe of that, like that's a Voyager type look, and I love that look. It looks very adventurous.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Romy's trying to add. Sorry, Romy. It's this thing that YouTube does. It won't let you add a link or whatever. So I'll put your link in the description below. Okay. And then Kristen, same thing. I'll change your Facebook. Sorry, guys, about that. It's just a weird thing on that. So other than that, like, what do you have coming up? What are your any big plans?
I have I have a couple of things that need to be built that I haven't gotten to. I have a first order stormtrooper sitting in a box. The armor kit's been sitting in a box for 2 years. I haven't touched it. I need to get it out and build it because hubby's is built already, but mine's sitting there. And then I have the alien that I was mentioning to you. It's a full latex xenomorph costume that I need to build.
Oh my God.
And then the problem is, like, I want to do those things, but then I don't know, Claire will have some new costume and I'm like, oh, I want that instead. So then I make that, and then that stuff just gets pushed off to the side.
Yeah,
We're
that's sort of
making a
like, I
costume
call
right
that,
now for my
I call that,
6-year-old. We're making a predator costume for him so he can match us.
no, I call that the shiny new project syndrome.
Squirrel. Yep. That's a squirrel
Squirrel.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a normal thing for creative people. Like you know, you have these things that you're working on and then you're like, oh, I get it. You know, you get a new idea and you're like, I gotta do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What's Rigor saying, DM'd you via Twitter on how search Amazon using Google. Oh, okay. He sent me, had what was suggesting there. Okay. And the other guys, the other thing I was going to tell you, Jack's just finishing it up, but I have a video coming out. So Kristen, you weren't able to come up to Toronto to go to Fan Expo, right? This year? Maybe you'll come next year?
I want to, yes. I absolutely want to come to Fan Expo.
Yeah. So Jack and I went down. We went on the last day, actually, which was actually the best day. There was a huge turnout of people and they had some good exhibits. Like we didn't get to go to them, but they had all the Back to the Future people were there. That was pretty cool. Like, you know, including the scientist guy, whatever his name is, and Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd, yeah. So he was there, and they had Xena Warrior Princess. They had actually a pretty good panel of people, and but anyway, I just went down and I interviewed a bunch of cosplayers. It was so much fun. I just sort of accosted them as they were like walking around, and so I have a video coming out of that, guys, of me just attacking people wearing costumes, and so that hopefully will be out. It's probably gonna be out later on tonight. And then I'm also, so through that, I met this girl named Macrame Owl Cosplay. She's a local cosplayer. I should introduce you to. She is in Toronto, and she's actually on, are you on Instagram, Kristen?
Yeah, sort of. I mean,
sort of.
Really.
I just sort of, you know, started it. Oh, Cindy, you're still here. I thought you were. She said excited to see that video. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, hopefully you guys will like it.
Oh, I know her. She's in our group. Herman Bum's mom. She's in our group.
No, I know. That's how I think I met her. I met her through you guys. She's an Outlander fan. So, anyway, so I met this girl, like another cosplayer, and so then I ran into her again, and she's local, so it's sort of fun. And her girlfriend, who also dresses up in costumes, like she makes the costumes for the two of them. She went to Ryerson, which is the school I went to. So we sort of got chatting, and I said, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?" Because, like I told you, I just always like, it's terrible. I'm like, you know, I'm kind of like a pest. I'm just like, "Hey, you want to come on my show?" Like, I think this week I was bugging you. I was thinking, oh my God. I said to Jack, my husband, I said, oh my God, Kristen's going to be like, why do you keep messaging me?
Nope. I love it.
I was like, hey, Kristen, wait, like, I have a question I was going to ask you. I was thinking I'm probably driving you bonkers or something. Like,
nope,
trying to.
I am always down for participating in things. I love it.
Like I was thinking you're probably sitting at home having a glass of wine, trying to watch TV or something, and I keep messaging you. So I'm a little bit annoying that way. So I've been pestering this one, and then I got this girl this week. This is again a really fun thing about the channel. So there's this girl, she's out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, and she sends me some pictures of some costumes she's made, and they're like freaking amazing. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know, so she wants to actually get a job working as a stitcher, like in theaters. So, which I think she would do quite well so she made Cersei's costume from season 1, you know, the blue one, and it's got all of the birds on it, you know, the embroidered birds. I think Romy's made one similar as well. So she made that, and it was stunning. So I asked her, I said, hey, like, you don't know me, but do you want to come on my show? So she said, sure. So hopefully I'll have those guys on. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to, I'll have to hit up your friend Anna. Is it Anna?
Yeah.
She said the same way that they say it in Frozen. Did she do a Frozen costume? I don't
believe Anna does, but Anna has probably, Anna's probably got 40 or 50 costumes, and she also has an impressive collection of screen use costumes.
Wow. Well, I know that, again, I know Romy has made Anna, I think. Romy, you can confirm that. Oh, Tatiana's here. Hi, Tatiana. Hi, Picture Japan. Tatiana, you missed the lovely Kristen talking about her beautiful cosplay costumes, but you can watch it later. So Tatiana has to work when I do my live stream, so that kind of bumps her out. She's from Costa Rica, so we have people from like all over the world, you know, kind of representing here. I love that. And Aaron's from South Carolina, and Justin's from where you're from, North Dakota, I believe. Justin, is that where you're from? North Dakota? That's 30 days. I think he's from North Dakota. So we have, and Romy's from Romy. Where do you live? Is she in California?
She's down in Texas now, I think.
She's met Anna and Elsa, she says.
Yeah, I think she's in Texas now. She's originally from up closer to me. She's from like the Eastern Seaboard somewhere. Yeah,
so I'm going to just start pestering people, and I'm just going to get this terrible reputation of asking people to come on my show. But I mean, how much fun is it just talking about costumes for 2 hours, right? Like, it's kind of a blast.
I have no trouble rambling on.
Yeah, like last week it was really fun, Kristen. I think you would have enjoyed it. I met this guy again through YouTube. And again, I just sort of said, hey, do you want to come on my show? You don't know me at all. And he did. And he knew so much stuff about armor. And it was so cool. And he actually owns, he was from Louisiana. And he had that Southern drawl, and he kept calling me ma'am. Which I adore. And he owns actually a gun shop down in Louisiana. And it's so funny because I'm such a pacifist. I'm like, oh my God, you own a gun shop. But he also sells like really interesting like period weapons, like a lot of Civil War. And then he also is a collector. So we were talking about all kinds of different weapons, and he knew all this stuff about armor, and it was just so cool, like really, really fascinating. And so I will have to find out from him if he's ever watched Outlander, because that would be really cool if he knows about. He probably does, because he told me that he studied Scotland after Culloden. I think he said it was the Indian Scottish. What did he say it was? No, it would have been in America. But anyway, so I should ask him about that if he knows that, because that'd be really fun just to talk about the weapons on Outlander. I don't know if you know a lot about it.
They did use a lot of things that I remember seeing I think it was on my season one. I think on my season 1 video they had a behind the scenes little featurette where they went into the armory and they showed all the weapons that they have. It was really neat to see those. I know one of Jamie's swords is kind of a reproduction of an authentic sword that I saw in a museum. So I think they did quite a good job on that. But that wouldn't be Terry. That would be, I guess they probably had a separate arms and armor person deal with all of that, I'm assuming. Yeah, they introduced him in the video. I can't think of his name, but the armorer was actually there, and he went through and showed some of those weapons and talked about them. And you're right, the one that Jamie had is it's a reproduction of what they call the Culloden sword. It's a specific variant of the Scottish broadsword that they kind of reproduced for that. Yeah, and so I actually so in my video I didn't talk a lot about the armor or the weapons, because I'm not like super knowledgeable in that area, but I did include that, and I had the picture just to show the side by side, and I thought that was really, really cool. But I'll have to see that behind the scenes video. So before we go, guys, does anybody have any more questions that they want to ask to Kristen? You can ask me anything. Yeah, and it's it's when do you guys have your Thanksgiving? Is it November? It is. Yes, toward the end of November, 25th. Yeah. So this, for any of my Canadian viewers, it's Canadian Thanksgiving. So I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's going to be, we have it on the Monday. And so how it works for us is we get the kids get, it's like a long weekend, and we had a day off on Friday. So it's actually a 4-day weekend. So but I'm going to do our dinner tomorrow. So it's going to be like, I don't have to rush or anything like that. So that's why we're doing the live stream tonight. But guys, if you have any more questions that you want to ask Kristen, Tatiana says that's a very lovely dress you're wearing, and love the neck scarf. Yeah. So Tatiana, if you watch the beginning of the video, once it's on the replay, you'll be able to see, we go completely through everything, right, Kristen? And then 30 said you missed a lot, talked about her outfit that she has on now, and many others that Kristen has made. We'll have to, he's saying the same thing, that you'll have to watch the replay. Oh, thanks, you do. He's saying happy Thanksgiving. You too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I don't think Thanksgiving in Canada is as big of a deal as it is in the United States. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong. I always thought it seemed like a much bigger deal in the United States. And also, you guys have it pretty close. It's kind of like the beginning of the holiday season, right? It's like it kind of opens up the holiday season. Like you have your Thanksgiving and then it kind of goes right into the holiday season. Is that right?
Yeah, Thanksgiving, then Christmas comes a month after, then New
Yeah.
Year's comes right after that. So
Yeah, so it's all really so for us it's kind of nice in a way because then we have, we have Thanksgiving and then we have a bit of a break and then we go into the kind of into the holiday. Oh, because we have Halloween right after. So that's usually like the next big thing is Halloween. So we get our pumpkins and everything for Thanksgiving, which we did this weekend. We went to this really fun out by my husband's family. They had this beautiful farm and she had all the pumpkins and we took pictures and then we bring the pumpkins home and we put them out for Thanksgiving. And then if you want to pick up pies, like stuff for pumpkin pie, and then they put out, and then come Halloween, then we take the pumpkins that we bought for Thanksgiving and then we carve them for Halloween. So that's sort of how it works. That's Halloween. That's Thanksgiving in Canada. It's very exciting. But other than that, we pretty much do everything the same way that you guys do. We do turkey and stuffing and all the side dishes. We don't do the candied, you guys do some weird things like candied yams. Sorry if I'm generalizing. Candied yams.
I don't just because I'm not like a yam person, but some people do.
And, or the marshmallows and all that kind of thing.
There's all kinds of wacky things. Mine's very traditional. It's
I had a big
potatoes and corn and things like that.
I had a big argument with my mother-in-law when I was down. I was down in Prince Edward County, which is this really nice area in Ontario, for Thursday and Friday, and we were talking about things that should never be together. And one of the things I said is that should never be together is Jell-O and fruit. And she's like, I love Jell-O and fruit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's so disgusting. And the funny thing is, if you put pineapple in Jell-O, it won't even work because of the acidity in the pineapple. So, but she's like from the Betty Crocker age or the Joy of Cooking age, where they used to do all these really weird desserts back in the 1950s. So like I said to her, like the whole thing with fruit cake and putting marzipan on it, it's just like, oh, it's the worst thing ever, I think. So so she gets a little bit upset with me because sometimes I'm a little bit vocal about how I feel about vintage dishes from the 1950s. Okay. Yeah. So, Romy says, great job, Kristen. Oh, thanks so much, Romy. Happy Thanksgiving to my friends in Canada. That's so lovely. And thank you, Romy, for letting me pester you as well. And Tatiana says, traditional recycling with a pumpkin. Yes. And Picture Japan. Hello. I don't know Picture Japan, and welcome to the live stream. It's your first time here, I believe. Where in Winnipeg are you? Would be funny if I know you. Well, I'm not in Winnipeg. I'm in Toronto, but this girl, her name is Samus Node. She's the cosplayer that I met from Winnipeg, but I did live in Winnipeg years and years ago. I lived in River Heights. So, and my brother still lives there. And Tatiana's in Puerto Rico. So we have sort of an international audience. So anyways, guys, first off, I wanted to thank Kristen so much for being here. Thank you, Kristen, coming back a second time.
I'm ready to come back anytime you want me.
I definitely want to have you back. And, we could even have you and Sheila come on together if you want, or you could be separate again.
Nope, I would totally team up with Sheila.
Yeah, what we should do is maybe when Outlander airs, we can get you both on to do some commentary about
dueling Claire's.
Dueling Claire's. You guys could both dress up like Claire. I'll wear my shawl next time because it's starting to get cold now up in Canada. Kristen and I actually have pretty close weather. Our weather's pretty aligned in Detroit. So I'll wear my shawl. And Reggie says, she says party. We should have wine too. We can have wine. I don't know if you drink wine, but I know that Sheila drinks wine, and I certainly drink wine. So we could do that. That would be kind of fun. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for coming, and thank you 30 days for moderating. Like, you're so wonderful that you do that every week. I really appreciate that. And anyways, and if anybody wants to check out 30 Days channel, His name is Justin, by the way. He does a channel where he reviews products for, hair and skin, men's products mostly. And I went into one of his live streams and he was talking about like this soap that I want to get. It's like a giant block of soap like this. It's like a body soap and he actually kind of breaks it off. But it like smells really great, and they do vegan and they do organic and all that kind of thing. So he tests out these different products and then he does a review of it. So it's really fun. And my husband has a beard and a mustache. So I was sort of asking him some advice about all that. So if you guys want to check Justin's channel out, it's really, really great. And what else did I have to say to you guys? Is there anything else I needed to talk to you about? I think that's it. I think I mentioned everything. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and has a safe weekend and enjoyable weekend. And I guess I'm not sure what the next show is going to be, so I'll have to let you know. But hopefully, it'll probably be another cosplayer that I've tackled in the message section somewhere. So, and Romy, I'll talk to you at some point, and I'll also talk to you, Sheila, at some point. So, Kristen, you want to say goodbye?
Bye, everybody. See you later.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.